Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Aguilar, of course.
Hello.
How is everybody doing? Thank you all very much for being here this evening. We start out with a great
Your
crowd.
sound is weird.
Oh, is it? It's the thing again.
Very echoey.
Better?
Yeah, that's warmer.
Yeah. It's that thing. It's that setting again that was messed up. My apologies. Good catch. Thanks for that. 870 strong to start things off in the YouTube chat. 484 over on Rumble. Smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. We do have Q&A after the show tonight. I see one caller already called in. Got to wait till the intermission to call in because it makes the show very difficult to do with callers waiting. So I'm going to bounce the caller from the studio, although I think I know who you are, and I have been waiting for you to call. So please do call back. Please do call back when it's time. I'm going to kick you from the studio now. Call in during the intermission, and we'll be ready for you on the Q&A side. All right. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, very much for being here. Appreciate seeing you all. We have a very special guest this evening, so we're going to get right on with the program. He is a retired U.S. Army Green Beret veteran who then worked as a security contractor in Gaza before becoming perhaps best known as a whistleblower about the now infamous Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It's our great pleasure and honor to welcome tonight Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. Thank you so much for being here, Anthony. Appreciate you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks so much for making time for us tonight. First of all, I know you do have an event coming up tomorrow. We have a large New York-based viewership and listenership. You're going to be speaking outside the UN, right, at Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza tomorrow. Do you want to just plug that event quickly before we start?
Yeah, so that's for UN Resolution 377A, which is United for Peace, which is resolution that will allow voting members in enough of a number of voting members to override a veto in the UN. So I think it's important because the United States enjoys a very powerful veto vote in the UN, and I think that vote with our current elected officials and how our country votes in this is our veto power is compromised. It's compromised by Israel, and they are paying us to use it on their behalf to veto things that the world should not stand for. So I'll be there tomorrow at this press conference. So if you can tune in or come out, please do.
Okay, it's Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, 47th Street and 2nd Avenue, right overlooking the UN Plaza. So I want to ask you first, just a brief background as to how you became involved with the GHF. You've obviously been in multiple combat zones. You have a long career in the Army. And I think broadly speaking, people are kind of curious about the retired veteran to private contractor pipeline. So do you want to just talk about how you became involved with the GHF and how you ended up going to Gaza?
Absolutely. So once I retired, going into private contracting or independent contracting was not something that I anticipated, nor was I looking for that type of work. I was retired, and I was very much so happy in retirement life, just focusing on being a father and a husband and being home. UG Solutions, which is the subcontract to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. If you've seen a piece that hit, I believe last week out of the BBC, there was a piece on UG Solutions and their employment of the Infidels Motorcycle Club as their primary recruiting pool for this contract arm. So I am not a member of the Infidels Motorcycle Club nor affiliation in any way, but UG Solutions called me on May 13th and recruited me because they were specifically looking for personnel that had recently left the service or recently retired with a special operations background. So I got a phone call from them, and to be honest, upon initial discussion, it seemed to me that feeding people, that running distribution sites to provide starving people with food, to secure food so that starving people would be sure to eat and get food, that seemed like a good cause. That seemed like a noble mission for me. I was not taking on contract work for the money. I'm completely retired and receive my pension. I wasn't doing it for the chance to go to war. I'd been to 12 combat deployments and 4 wars. I'd seen enough of war. I really felt a calling and felt that if the United States was going to be putting its name on a mechanism to be delivering and securing food to feed a starving population, that's something I wanted to lend my expertise in and to be a part of it. What transpired and what came to be was completely the opposite of what I had signed on for, but that is why I initially went on to take this job as an independent contractor. I really wanted to do good on behalf of, in the name of the United States, working on a contract to feed starving people. At that point, I was already, my position was already firm that there was absolutely crisis, starvation, food crisis, in the precipice of a famine in Gaza. That wasn't a question to me, and I wanted to be a part of relieving that.
All right,
And
can I
did you
just
see-
interject, Keaton?
Sure.
All right, so you were not a professional mercenary. It seems like a lot of people who are drawn into this are. Can you give us a sense of like that pipeline where you go from the military into that?
So if you recall the early days of this paramilitary independent contract recruiting, the Blackwater days, that's how that kind of grew. That the United States military having operational requirements in combat zones where U.S. soldiers aren't always, because if you want to keep the number of deployed soldiers low, but you still want to have, presence in a place, use private contractors, mercenaries. That's exactly what this is. This is just that model under a new name with a new bumper sticker, new wrapping, right back doing the same things that we were doing that we know fail. So to your question on the independent contracting piece, yes, I was not what you would call a professional mercenary or a professional independent contractor. There are I would say pretty much all of the contractors that were there under the employment of UG Solutions for the GHF were that professional, full-time, mercenary, independent contractors. That is what they did. That was their living. They would take 90 to 120 day contracts in country A or 3-month contracts in country B, come home for a while, go again. And it's a very, very lucrative business. And it makes a lot of money. As an example, I went over there for initial 90-day turn, May 19th to August 21st, making, over $1,500 every day per day. They just extended the contract for those that were there with me until December, and they've increased that pay, and they'll probably extend that contract again into the new year. So contractors that are going on a contract like this, the more lucrative ones, I would say, the high dollar ones where you're making over $1,500 a day, you stand to come home making $1 million. It is a very lucrative business, and it is it is as corrupt as you would think that it could become.
So going in, I just want to go back. That was a great answer. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You know, going into Gaza, it sounds like you said in answering the last question that you realized there was a humanitarian crisis there. You realized there was starvation there. When enlisting with the GHF at the time, were you under the assumption that the United States was a good faith partner in trying to get as much aid to the Palestinians as they could, and did that sour over time being there, or did you have more suspicions going in?
Full transparency, I did not have suspicions, and that's something that I think can speak to people in terms of the power of Western media, the power of keeping things a secret, the power of the narrative. I did not go into this job, into Israel, into Gaza with an anti or Israel resistant viewpoint. I was very much pro-Israel, thinking that Israel was a good faith actor in this, and that the United States was a good faith partner in this action, and that Israel did, in terms of fighting the war, fighting what they see as their justified self-defense. Okay, that's one aspect of this argument. And then you have the aspect of feeding people that are starving. So I went in with the feeling, with the perception that this was a good faith action by good faith actors acting in a way that was in accordance with humanitarian principles. And I took this job under that presumption. And I learned almost immediately that the red flags that eventually led to my own conclusion, that this is not only not that in execution, it's not that by design, and by execution and by plan. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is not a good faith actor. We are an actor in genocide.
Yeah, so it sounds to me, based on some previous interviews that you've done, that a major point of realization came just from observing the conditions on the ground in Gaza. And so I want to just play a very, very brief piece of video. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu on the anniversary of 9/11, using the anniversary of 9/11 to justify their strike on Qatar amid peace talks. And I'm just going to play a very brief piece of video here.
Various countries of the world condemn Israel. They should be ashamed of themselves. What did they do after America took out Osama bin Laden? Did they say, oh, what a terrible thing was done to Afghanistan or to Pakistan? No, they applauded.
Okay, so what he's basically saying there is, after 9/11, when the United States pursued Osama bin Laden, there wasn't much concern about the conditions on the ground in a place like Afghanistan, which we occupied for 20 years. That essentially seems to be the point that he's making. As a veteran of multiple war zones, Iraq, Afghanistan, you were in Syria too, as I understand. Is that right?
Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Tajikistan, and the southern Philippines, where there was actual named combat operations in those locations.
Gotcha. So you've been in war zones. You've seen some pretty dire stuff, I assume, throughout your career. How is Gaza different? How do those other war zones maintain, by comparison at least, a modicum of functionality as compared to Gaza, which I've seen you describe as just being totally devastated? No life, no culture, no nothing.
So I see it from three different aspects. The execution, physical, on the ground, what's happening. By comparison to any place that I have been deployed in war, indescribable, does not compare. It is an absolute devastated, post-apocalyptic wasteland that far exceeds any bounds of international humanitarian law, proportionality, Geneva Convention. It is hell on earth. It is a hellscape. When I was in Iraq, fighting in Fallujah, fighting in Mosul, fighting in Sadr City, we left a lot of destruction. Never did I think I would see anything comparable or worse than that. In Raqqa, in Syria, fighting ISIS, and when ISIS abandoned Raqqa and left to the southeast, they destroyed everything on their way out. Going through Raqqa, I didn't think that I'd ever see anything that bad in terms of bodies hanging from the streets, bodies being left in the streets to die and rot, destruction at a scale that you could only imagine in nightmares. And in Gaza, it took my breath away. It made me sick. It made me speechless. It was the most devastating. It's not a war. It is not a war. It is an annihilation. And what I think is, so let me finish the 3 points first so I don't get too off track here. So the second point in terms of comparison by policy, comparison by execution in terms of the operational or strategic goal. There is no military objective in Gaza. The defeat of Hamas, that is not a viable military objective. And Israel knew that going in. There is no political objective. Any thought of a ceasefire or any type of political diplomatic conclusion or culmination of this annihilation and this genocide is now off the table. Israel has taken that off the table quite literally in the form of F-35s and U.S. missiles going into an apartment in Qatar. That's taken off the table. There is no end state to this other than the phantasmatic, apocalyptic genocide of Palestine. That there is no end state to reach in terms of what a military or national objective would be on behalf of Israel in Gaza. That don't be fooled by that this doesn't end with anything but every Palestinian being killed and every inch of Gaza being leveled and Israel taking control of the entire thing. Third, the U.S. involvement. I have been in places where we have had U.S. contractors working along U.S. or NATO forces in many countries. We've seen this in Afghanistan. We've seen this in Iraq. I saw it in the Philippines. Saw it in Syria, where you have either U.S. contractors that are working through various agencies of either the USAID or the UN, or U.S. government DoD contractors working alongside in various capacities. What we have going on in Gaza is not that. Be clear that what we have in Gaza are mercenaries, U.S. citizens hired by a private company that is in no way affiliated or has any contractual or legal obligations with the United States government, that is entirely contracted by the government of Israel to do its dirty work. And in doing it, every U.S. contractor that's in Gaza, armed to the teeth with fully automatic weapons and stun grenades and that are taking part in this genocide, are in Gaza on a tourist visa. It doesn't get any more mercenary than that. Going to Gaza fully armed, involved in violence on a tourist visa. So those 3 points in terms of my worldview, my comparison, and what I would like to emphasize to folks is that my experience didn't come from one deployment or that one time cool story, bro. I deployed to combat, to conflict in places in the last quarter century that the United States has been involved in war. I have been deployed to every one of those wars and have fought in every one of those wars at the tactical, operational, and strategic level. I have seen them all. My comparison has a rich index, if you will, of cognitive library to go through to compare what I've seen, and there's nothing that compares. And what we're involved in, what the United States is complicit hand in hand with Israel, is a genocide. Have no doubt.
Now, a lot of people who have been in some of those conflict zones like Iraq, like Syria, come away from that with a cynicism about American foreign policy. It doesn't sound like it impacted you that way, given your number of deployments. Is that true?
Oh, it did. I think that through my military career, what I always felt was that the U.S. military was just chasing foreign policy around the desert. We don't have a foreign policy. We have executive decision and executive orders that chase various objectives throughout the Middle East or throughout the Southeast Asian continent. We don't have a foreign policy, and that became clear to me over the number of deployments that I had been involved in. And it's from my perspective, again, what I emphasize to folks is that I did not enlist. I was not a non-commissioned officer. I was a commissioned officer, and my obligation and my oath is something that I took very personally and deeply. And I felt that in my participation in these conflicts that I had been deployed to, that it was very hard to accept that our role in that as a country was blindly complicit in being on the wrong side of history. And to all of the veterans that have served in war alongside me, and those that have served in places that very similar to my experiences, I don't question my service in terms of why I served, but as I look through the history of our deployments and where we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and in Afghanistan in 2021, when I was a battalion commander overseeing aspects of the withdrawal, asking myself, what have we done? What are we doing? We are literally have been and continue to chase policy around the desert. And right now, in this particular case, Israel is the one carrying that stick, carrying that carrot, dragging it around, getting the United States to do its bidding in Iran, in Qatar, and God knows where next.
So at that point, why did you trust? Because you say you felt the American government was behind it, which you say now it's not actually. So why did you believe this would be a true humanitarian mission?
Well, that's, the premise going it. So again, my perspective, I had never been to Gaza. I had never experienced that problem set firsthand. My military experience in terms of deployments, I had been to the Central Command area of operations, countries in that area. But I had never experienced that operation, and being fed what's in the Western media, being fed what we get through the lens of Israeli propaganda that's then pumped through our news agencies here in the United States. It's that the UN, UNRWA, was infiltrated by Hamas and compromised by Hamas, and Israel wants to feed people and wants to relieve the population of its hunger and its crisis, but not at the same time as feeding Hamas. So that there needs to be a new method, and the United States answered that call with this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to feed people and allow for the continuation of the offensive, but separate the humanitarian aid aspect to it. And I was under the understanding that when we went into Gaza, that we would be operating at the capacity, conducting the mission of what the United Nations, UNRWA, World Food Kitchen, World Food Program were doing in terms of the community-based sites in the neighborhoods, in the areas where need was. What the plan was for the sites, how we would distribute, what the overall concept was, we did not know any of that before we went in, and quite frankly, no one knew. When we first got into Israel to plan operations in Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces, who are the client, the IDF are the contractual client in Gaza to the United States. There was no plan. We didn't know what we were getting into until we were in it. And once we were in it, it was so very obvious to me that this is not for anyone to say that the humanitarian plan, or that the plan that the Israeli government through the United States, through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation put together is some failure. It is not a failure. It is a exquisitely designed and executed plan for the purpose of genocide.
All right, so why don't we get into some of these claims about the GHF? Russ, you have
that is a perfect segue into, as I'm sure you are aware, the Israeli government has been funding trips from friendly Zionist-oriented influencers to view the GHF operations. So this is Brooke Goldstein, who's a very prominent influencer in that space. Here's some video of what she claims to have seen.
You communicate through social media and also the two flags. They have a green flag that goes up when it's open and a red flag when the site is closed.
Consistency is very important so that they know what times we're going to be open, and if we can do it at the same time every day, that's what we strive for. over the past couple of weeks, we've been able to achieve that. I mentioned our humanitarian workers and our local Palestinian workers. They interact with the crowd. The humanitarians' jobs are to get feedback from the crowd, develop relationships with the aid seekers, and out of that came this idea for a flag system. It was an idea generated by the aid seekers.
Providing aid to any wounded Gazans, and when they are wounded, they feel free. They come right through here, this open area, and now we're ensuring that the people who really need the aid most, who weren't able to come in the initial rush, are receiving what they need. And this is pretty much the longest process of it all. The first process, when everybody rushed in, took about 10-15 minutes, and now they're going to be distributing aid in the incredible heat for probably about over an hour.
You can see here there's a woman and her child, and we've had at least 4 people now being treated.
Yes, Hamas. Hamas.
Hamas?
Hamas bin haram.
Huh?
Hamas bin haram.
Hamas are a bunch of donkeys and dogs.
We do hold back. You'll see sort of not an official women's distribution, but at the end of our regular distributions, we do hold some aid back for women and children.
Your staff is mingling in with the people there. There's a very cordial, friendly interaction. But how do you secure? How do you know that they haven't been infiltrated by Hamas or one of these people? It's a threat.
It's a risky operation. It is possible that they would do it. It's hard to defeat. You can't have every woman searched coming in. It's an impossibility, so it is an inherent risk of the mission.
So you can see these are all women waiting. We've come to, after distribution is over, hold women and some children back so that they don't get left behind, as the stronger, younger males typically can get in first and pick apart the aid. And this is to ensure nobody gets left behind. Also, elderly or otherwise disabled folks who can't get there in time or can't fight the crowds. And now the aid's been dispersed. You see they've taken every single thing out of the site, the pallets, the cardboard, everything. And now you can see our local workers are out there trying to square the site.
Okay, so essentially the 3 points there are, yes, we worked with the Palestinian people to work out the flag system. It was actually their suggestion. We're very responsive to their feedback. They show a medical site where people can come and get medical attention. They also spend a lot of time on this notion that women and children are allowed to come in separately so that they get as much aid, and it's not just the strongest males who get in, and they're taking risks. They show the child calling Hamas donkeys and spitting on the ground. Now, is this a Potemkin village that they set up for the influencers? How does this match your experience being there?
That is North Korean propaganda 101 kabuki theater. Right out of the handbook of how to be a dictator or a tyrant. What I would like to add to that is that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation invites their influencers in, but they refuse to offer the invite or even address the asks of professional reporters from credible news agencies that have reporters that have been in war, because it's too dangerous for them to go. But GHF will bring in influencers. Who you saw in that video, the influencer that was there, I don't know who that is, but I do know the other person in the video was Chapin Fay, who is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation spokesperson. That would be like if I was in an operating room commentating on a brain surgery. I would have no idea what I'm talking about. Chapin Fay, the influencer, and others that go there to do these little spot pieces have no idea what they're talking about. In the very images, in the very video that they're shooting, that they think that there's good being done, they are demonstrating in crystal clear visual to the world why they should not be involved in the humanitarian effort the way that they're doing it. Why are people walking tens of kilometers in the heat, and when they get to the sites are collapsing from heat injury? because the distribution sites were put in areas that are 10 to 20 kilometers away from the population that they service. Why? Why do the women and the children not get food when they show up to the sites and they have to have food that's put for them afterwards? Because there's no distribution methodology and there's no distribution process to distribute aid in a humanitarian way. The distribution of humanitarian aid should not be a free-for-all, fight for it, come and get it on a site where 10 to 12,000 people have to go to one site at one time. Community distribution should be community-based outreach in the areas where the population needs it, not in areas that displaces them to the south. The images, if you saw in there was no water. We're providing them no water. If you saw there, you saw images of rotting potatoes and rotting onions. What are they supposed to do with that? We're giving them no water. No water in any of that. There is zero water being provided. Look around. There's no water. We give them no water. And how do I know that? So these influencers and Mr. Chapin Fay who like to jump in a combat vehicle and drive out to this site to do their little press tour. I developed those sites. I know exactly. I know every inch of all 4, now only 2 of those sites. How they're operated, how they run, where things go, how they open, how they close. The flag system that they talk about was such a success that was input from the aid seekers. We recommended, UG Solutions contractors that saw a problem, recommended that flag system back on the 28th of May. And we were told no, because it wasn't in the budget. So this new flag system they put in was something that we talked about, that we asked months ago. They're doing it, as you mentioned. This is a Potemkin village. It's Kabuki theater.
Okay. Now you mentioned the biker gangs. This just broke this week. So for anyone who's not familiar with this, sorry about that. We have a little video. An Islamophobic American biker gang is now responsible for the safeguarding of Palestinians in Gaza. So let's take a quick look at that.
The situation in Gaza couldn't get any more disturbing than it is. Check this out. A report recently revealed that a group of American security guards operating out of Gaza are actually part of an Islamophobic biker gang named Infidels Motorcycle Club. They're responsible for guarding the GHF aid sites, the very same ones where over 1,400 Palestinian civilians have been slaughtered at. Members of this gang liken themselves to modern crusaders, glorifying themselves as fighters of Islam. Their Facebook page is full of anti-Islamic propaganda, including an invite to a pig roast in defiance of the Islamic month of Ramadan. An American rights group has labelled their presence in Gaza as the equivalent of putting KKK members in charge of delivering aid in Sudan. The gang's leader, Johnny Mulford, is one of the main security operators in charge of the team in Gaza, the very same one that continues to fail to protect innocent Palestinians seeking aid. Men such as these have Crusader cross tattoos of the year 1095, directly celebrating the erasure of Muslims from the holy city of Jerusalem. If it's these individuals that are in charge of safeguarding Palestinians, it's no surprise that the GHF keeps on causing civilian casualties.
Did you experience that when you were there? Did you meet any members of this gang, or did you hear that kind of rhetoric, that kind of crusader rhetoric, fight for Western civilization? Did you experience people serving there who had that point of view about their mission?
Every day. I knew Johnny Mulford personally, worked with him directly, one-on-one every day. All of the site leaders that were there, the distribution site leaders, the people that you saw in that video of the people that were identified are all leaders. All of them, you know, they brought their infidel motorcycle club leather jackets so they could do an infidel motorcycle club photo in Gaza, branded with tattoos that are crusaders and infidel and 1095, and this idea that being there on this mission, being there on this contract is a crusade, is a pilgrimage back to the Holy Land to take part in their part to win back the Holy Land. The Infidels Motorcycle Club, I did not know who they were until I got there on this contract, and I noticed that so many of them had the same tattoos. So it kind of stood out to me as like, that's odd. Did I miss the tattoo station during in processing? Because I didn't get one. Why does everybody have this tattoo? So I I just started to look into it, and it was mind-boggling to me that an organization that on their own social media, their whole purpose of existing is to fight jihad and the elimination of all Muslims from the earth. And I was like, do you realize who the majority of the population within Gaza, who the Palestinians are? Like it was like watching a Quentin Tarantino movie where pieces start coming together for you and throughout the movie, where a scene from before comes together and links to a scene from before to see what you're seeing. And pretty soon the whole picture is painted that, yeah, this is from the ground up. This was built to be a targeted dehumanization, displacement operation, starvation, and a genocide against the people of Palestine. GHF hired the perfect people to do that on their behalf.
Surprised you didn't see Quentin Tarantino himself.
Yeah.
But
well, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. Just 1 second, kid. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you, is it fair to characterize the GHF operation as being overrun by white nationalist jihadists?
It's definitely, well, overrun. I mean, controlled by. Overrun would mean that they didn't intend for that, and these guys came in and took over. It was designed that way. So, designed, being executed as designed. It is built. It is operating the way it was built, but not just from the top down. I mean, Johnny Moore, the director of the GHF, is a self-proclaimed evangelical Christian Zionist. Mike Huckabee, who's supporting GHF from the United States, is a Christian Zionist. You have people that are within. So the entire contract agency, the thing about Mr. Johnny Moore, again, or excuse me, not Johnny Moore in this case, Johnny Moore, head of GHF, different Johnny Mulford, head of UG Solutions contracting country, or was, you have this character arc, if you will, of white nationalists, extremist views against Muslims, this vision of a Christian Zion worldview, all together in this organization. And we ask ourselves, it's a mystery why hundreds and thousands of Palestinians are dying of starvation and dying at or near these sites. It's not a mystery. It's right in front of us. They gave us the script.
Wow.
So yeah, I was just going to ask as a final question. So, and you partially answered it there, but given this, I mean, you talk about a Quentin Tarantino movie, it's almost like a Mad Max movie. I mean, it really is just, it's beyond parody that they would have a group like this administering aid in Gaza. So what if you had to say, what is the primary objective of the GHF? Does it serve to deter people from seeking aid, since it's so dangerous for these Palestinians to seek aid, since the people who are giving them that aid are obviously so hostile to them? Is it meant as a deterrent? Is it meant as a trap to lure the population south so that they can wall them in an even more densely populated concentration camp than was Gaza itself, more or less? What do you think the primary objective of this GHF mission is? And it could be more than one thing. Because that is just, I'm sorry to go on, but that is just mind-blowing to see.
It comes down to displace, decimate, destroy. That is what they're doing. Step one, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's presence in Gaza is the tool of the displacement. The mass internal displacement, forced internal displacement that is happening at scale in Gaza is the tool of that. The agent of that mission is the GHF. They have recently built, with the additional funds that were received, a 2.7 kilometer square area concentration camp in the south, the far south. Every site GHF ran was in the far south, except the one in central Gaza near Netzarim corridor, which is now closed. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is the agent, the tool in the forced displacement. Displace. Once they have them displaced and they're bringing them down to these sites, there's no food distribution. Distribution of food, distribution of humanitarian aid means that you actually distribute it. Putting it in a pile and saying, come and get it, for them to rush in there and fight over food, of which there is far, far, far not enough. And then the inadequate amount of food and no water, that's not a mistake in planning. That was by design. The number of meals, the number of boxes, the number of trucks, the number of rotations, the number of sites delivered every day, how it's delivered, the time it's delivered, when it's delivered, who delivers it, where it goes. Designed. This is a designed catastrophe. This is a designed genocide. And then finally, right now, as we speak, as we sit here tonight talking in Gaza, Israel, with the United States as its complicit and willing partner through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is in the stages of the final solution. They have already cleared all of the south. Every square inch of Rafah is gone. North of the Remark corridor in the central portion of Gaza, Operation Gideon's Chariots that commenced in May and has been going through since about 2 weeks ago when they stopped and halted to go into the north. The entire purpose of that operation was to clear central Gaza. That happened. Mawasi, Khan Yunis, Berish, gone, leveled. No human beings can live. There's nowhere left to go. Phase 3, Operation Gideon's Chariots 2, in concert or in coordination with the expansion of the sites and the forced displacement and continued displacement of Palestinians to the south. This is a plan. That plan is going to spectacular success, exactly as the Israelis and the United States through GHF planned it. Hand in hand, partners in crime, complicit in every way. As we speak, and Gaza City and Jabalia is being leveled to the ground. Ray Charles can see what's going on. The northern Gaza is being leveled to the ground. Every day we watch it. And the people that are surviving, they have nowhere to go. They have to go south. They are forced to the south. Reporters are reporting that are still alive, that are reporting from in Gaza, are showing the coastal corridor that is so overrun with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that it's unmanageable. And they are all moving south. And who's going to be there to receive them? Who is going there to be receiving this forced displaced population that's starving and on the edge of a total catastrophic famine? Who's going to be there? Americans, United States citizens, with guarding the gates of the concentration camp. And when these displaced individuals, when these Palestinians who lost their home and their families and they're starving, and the only thing they have looked forward to is more starvation, and hopefully they don't die of disease, of dysentery and polio and other things that are already setting in scale. What do they get greeted with? Biometric scanning. They show up to the site, and if they want allowed exit or access to the site, they have to be biometrically enrolled. Fingerprint, iris scanned, photo, put into a database by an American, not an Israeli, not a foreign contractor, an American. And what happens to that data? It gets handed over to the IDF. And what's happened to that data? They create persons of interests, databases from it, of which they use for targeting. The United States isn't a bystander. The United States is not a judge or a referee. We are in the arena, and we are complicit in the crimes against humanity and the genocide that's happening against the people of Palestine. We are on the verge of days, not weeks and months, days from the world witnessing a point where there is no return, a point of no return, and tomorrow is too late. And we have sat by and we have watched it, and the United States is complicit, hand in hand, have no doubt.
One last question. Have you gotten a lot of pressure to stop speaking about this?
I've gotten a lot of pressure to stop speaking about this from the GHF and from Fox News, which would be like during World War II, Germany asking, the Germans asking the Poles, the Polish and the Jews not to talk about the genocide. It's clown show. It's amateur hour. Pressure from anyone else? No. I think that I've taken 2 trips, if you will, 2 door-to-door tours, if you will, pre-planned, pre-coordinated, called their offices, showed up using proper protocol to the offices of our lawmakers twice, early July. And I saw Senator Van Hollen and Senator Sanders and Senator Welch and even Senator Langford and Senator Tillis. It was bipartisan. And I went back just last week with Doctors Against Genocide and I talked to them. And I made it very clear to them. I brought this up to your attention in July, and I made it very clear to you exactly what is happening. Exactly what is happening. To the T, I told you that by this date, this operation would be in place. By this date, this operation would be in place. By this date, this is what we would be doing. And that is exactly what's happening. I have seen the plans. I was part of the planning. I know what the plan is. So I know what they're doing. It's not a secret. It's not a surprise. I know exactly what the next step is in this from a strategic perspective. And I went to the Hill this time and I told them all, I am taking names. I am taking names, stand to be accounted, and I will tell the world who stood on what side or the other. This is not a matter of politics. This is not a matter of religion or which side of the aisle you're on or where your APAC money coming from. This is a matter of humanity. Stand and be accounted. And I am taking names. And when we get to the point where there's a point of no return, and the only House resolution that our elected leaders are looking to pass is where we're going to build the monument to the people of Palestine that once existed that no longer do. The names will be known of the people that did nothing, that stood by and said, there's nothing we can do about it, or that stood by and said, it's complicated, or that stood by and allowed this to happen. And one day, when this is in the history books and we're all looking at this and we all collectively as a world say that it was wrong and never again. Well, the people that stood on the wrong side of history are going to be known. You cannot hide, and I will not let you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yes. So tomorrow, for those who are watching the clip version of this, that'll be today. But while we're live here tomorrow, what is it, noon at Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza tomorrow? Is that the time? Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So 12 p.m., Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza in New York City. That's 47th Street and 2nd Avenue overlooking the United Nations. You can find Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar there, and I'm sure you will see him around. Thank you so much for speaking up, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate your voice and your platform, and for continuing with the message. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a great evening. Bye-bye. All right, that's Anthony Aguilar. Everybody, round of applause. Round of applause in the chat, please. And thank you very much. Great of him to join us tonight. And thanks to Jose Vega's team for putting us in touch. They're the ones who facilitated that. So I got to give a shout out to them. And I also got to give a shout out to Jose, who has an event. I believe this is tomorrow night, too. Dr. Feroz Sidwa, who we've interviewed on the Jimmy Dore show.
Too, right?
Yes. We've interviewed Dr. Feroz on the Jimmy Dore show. And this will be Stop the Slaughter of the Innocents. That is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. That is on Eventbrite. So if you could just go to Eventbrite and type in that title. I don't have a clean link for you. I'll try to get one over the course of the show. In fact, Jake, could you try and track down a link for that just using the information that's there? If you go to Eventbrite NYC Town Hall, Stop the Slaughter of the Innocents. I don't know if they list the venue because they Town Hall in Midtown Manhattan. Yeah, that's the kind of thing where they tell you where to go once you are as VP. I think that's what the deal is. That's the way Jose usually operates, which is probably probably prudent. But yes, that is the link for tomorrow. So Jose is going to be live with Dr. Feroz Sidwa tomorrow. So a couple of great events to go check out tomorrow if you are in or around New York City. All right, folks, we are up to 802 likes. That's good for one of these. And 2,360 in the live chat. All
right. So, folks, we did a very long interview with friend of show Brianna Joy Gray today. Very long. It was very charged, which is why it went long, and we each kept wanting to go, but that wound up making this show really crunched. So I'm going to do something I've only done like maybe a couple times in the history of the show. I'm going to eat during the segment. And while you read chats, I'm going to go get my coffee that I didn't even have time to get off the brewer.
All right, go ahead. Maker. I'll read some chats right now. All right, cool. Yeah, we did record an episode of Bad Faith this afternoon, and yeah, it did go pretty long. I don't know. I think it's coming out tomorrow. I don't know if it's a paywalled one or a non-paywalled one, or usually, I mean, she'll drop a clip of it on YouTube anyway, and then it'll be on the podcast feed. That's where I think you get the full episode. But yeah, that was a good time with Brianna today. And yeah, it was a long one. It was a long one because we kept going back and forth, and none of us wanted to stop. So yeah, to keep an eye out for that. That'll be tomorrow. Subscribe to the audio podcast. Again, I'm not exactly sure how that gets released, in what format and what entirety, or if they edit it down, or that's up to them. But you will be seeing some of us on Bad Faith. I assume tomorrow they'll have it out. All right. Let's take a look at some super chats and Rumble rants. Thank you for being here, everybody, this evening. Michael Castillo says Max Blumenthal's explanation about Charlie Kirk on the Tim Dillon show was the best. Keaton, your eulogy on Charlie Kirk had me in tears. It was beautifully said. Free Palestine. Well, thank you, Michael. Michael said, I know it wasn't a eulogy, but I think you know what I mean. Yes, I do know what you mean, my friend. Thank you. I'm glad you got something out of that. Thank you for that. Black at you production. Thanks for the $5. The free speech warrior shouldn't complain about this. Charlie is blowing the devil. Change my mind. Steve Adeptus, thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that. Thanks for chipping into the show. Appreciate that. Fat Not So Fat says Yuri Bezmenov's exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who is demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Thank you, Fat Not So Fat. Appreciate that donation. David Santucci says, so that Goldstein woman didn't wonder just who wounded the wounded Gazans. Good points. Yes, good point, David. Thank you very much for that generous donation. Let's go to some Rumble rants over here. Professor Brown Note says, out now, Cash the Hindu Viking. Yeah, that was some quote he gave to the microphone on his question.
We have some crazy footage of him showing his devotion to the Norse religion tonight.
On his quest to DEI Valhalla, he meets many magical friends like Space Karen, Wife Beater Walsh, and James Woods. Also fine bitches like Laura Rasputin and Nancy Two Tits. Thank you, Professor Brown Note. Let's see here. There have been a billion anti-Nazi and anti-Soviet Hollywood movies produced over the years. Do you think in 100 years, when this madness is over, they'll make one single anti-Zionist film? Well, yes, I do. And I don't think it'll take 100 years. I think it'll be much sooner than that. All right. Let's take a look over here. Whether or not it's true the shooter was a Fuentes acolyte with a furry roommate, a narrative implicating the Mormon Church was never leaving Utah. Ron Burgundy, keep up the good work, guys. I rarely get to watch live. I live in a semi-socialist nation. It's actually not too bad. Anyway, I thought I'd give you $10 to force the commie party has to up their $5 rant game. Thank you, Ron Burgundy. What semi-socialist country do you live in, if you don't mind me asking? I would like to know. Just out of curiosity. Abiding says the Charlie Kirk memes we post today will echo in eternity. Anonymous Groiper. That's some serious scratch. Doe Dineros, does Mr. Aguilar know where he is now? Thank you, Free Shit 77. Appreciate that. Okay, I think that gives us almost up to date. All right, you want to do your segments here? Do your pieces?
Oh, I'm before you?
Yeah, you're before me. Yeah.
You gotta give me a minute. My mouth is full. I thought I had a whole segment of yours to go.
No, I don't have a whole segment of mine yet. No. We got both of yours now.
All right, read something. Give me a second.
Needs 5 minutes to chew a piece of salad or whatever. What are you eating, by the way?
I'm eating a salad with hummus.
Oh, okay. Eating some hummus. All right. You got to wash the hummus down. All right. So I'll give you a 30-second warning. Username. We need a new organization to prevent MIC relapses. I'm thinking Atrocities Anonymous. Thoughts? Yeah. Not too bad. I like it. Vito P says, it's Vito. My friend Landry would say community and solidarity, my friends. Cancer sucks and you guys rock. Thank you, Vito. Let's have a cowbell for Vito. Appreciate that. very much. Thank you, sir, for that kind donation. All right. Are we good?
All right. Rock and roll. Here we go.
All right.
All right. So I know a lot of you were really frightened with this killer on the loose. But fortunately, turns out not only did they catch him, but Israel was in no way responsible for this crime at all. I know we're all breathing a big sigh of relief. And James Lee, man, give it up to him. He's man enough to admit when he's wrong. Retraction. It was not Israel that killed Charlie Kirk. Per the FBI, it was a lone gunman who planted two patsies in the crowd, then shot Kirk, disassembled his rifle, executed a perfect escape, reassembled it in the woods, then turned himself in. No more questions, please. I'm glad he broke it down like that. I mean, it seems reasonable. All right, so let's see what he said.
Second, to issue a retraction in regards to the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk. We're being told that it was not an Israeli conspiracy. It was, according to the FBI, the act of a lone gunman named Tyler Robinson, a deranged lone gunman who just happened to have not one, but two patsies in the crowd. We're also now being told that it was his father, Matt Robinson, now hailed as the father of justice, who turned his son into the authorities. In a press conference shortly thereafter, FBI Director Kash Patel proudly announced that the suspect was apprehended in record time, quote, in less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise. According to CNN, a family member told investigators that Robinson had, quote, become more political in recent years, and that the authorities had also discovered anti-fascist messages engraved on the ammunition. Prime Minister Netanyahu went on Fox News, though, to claim that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a combination of, quote, radical Islamists and ultra-progressives. Now, in terms of the murder weapon, the FBI stated that they found the shooter's rifle in the woods, fully assembled. And here is Robinson caught on CCTV footage making that getaway from the rooftop with said rifle.
Yeah. No rifle there, folks. No rifle. Really strange. Pretty strange. Unless he had it down his drawers, I guess.
Yes, people have been telling me that the barrel can be disassembled in seconds, which he then put back together in the woods to hide it from authorities.
See, that's
so yeah, that's it. We got him. Now, no more questions, please.
Yep. No more questions. So we do have a little of that footage of Kash Patel in which he comes out as a pagan. Nobody thought it. We heard he was a Hindu. Turns out he is an adherent to the old Norse ways.
Charlie Kirk. Rest now, brother. We have the watch. And I'll see you in Valhalla.
This gets pretty crazy, man. Pretty wild. Wow, even speaks Norse.
Vill dreven dräcka vart Irlanden att väga gröda och att lacka och sjunga väl hölver kommun.
So say what you will about Kash Patel. Unlike Pete Buttigieg, he can actually speak Old Norse. This is Tariq Nasheed. Valhalla is a cosplay fantasy white supremacists use for fake European purity. Patel wouldn't be allowed in Valhalla. Yeah, I guess nobody told him. Or maybe they did tell him. Maybe he's been hanging around crazy crackers long enough that he knows the kind of shit that they like. Or he could have been referencing this K Street strip club, Valhalla. He's pictured here outside. Some people might say that may have actually been what he was talking about. Or maybe he sees himself this way. Maybe this is his self-image. Maybe in Kash Patel's mind, when he looks in the mirror, this is who he sees, a white Nordic guy. So the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, went on to relieve everyone of any of their suspicions. Yes, he was dating one of the transes. So clearly that's what's going on here. No further thought required.
Anything new on the investigation? You say he admitted that, confessed?
No, not again. He has not confessed to authorities. He is not cooperating. But all the people around him are cooperating, and I think that's very important. There were reports yesterday that we can confirm that his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. That's information that the FBI had mentioned yesterday. We can confirm that as well, and that he is cooperating with authorities as well.
Okay, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny that before they caught a guy, everyone was trying to hit the trans angle, and there's a convenient trans angle. Although it's a little complicated by the fact that, according to aptly named Governor Cox here, the trans boyfriend it has not transitioned, so I'm not misgendering. Is actually still male, I believe. Is cooperating with them, and the person who actually supposedly did this is not. Tyler Robinson, this is DD Geopolitics. Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the murder of Charlie Kirk, has pleaded not guilty and is refusing to cooperate with investigators. But everyone around him is cooperating, Cox told ABC News. What? Maybe he doesn't want to be a patsy. We're just spitballing here. We're just spitballing. Clearly, he did it. Michael Savage, who is well represented on our soundboard, gave us a couple of more candidates for the soundboard in this segment, in which, hey, man, a lot of people on the right, a lot of conservatives are not buying it, and he's one of them.
This is wrong. I know I shouldn't do this. I'm risking an awful lot to go up against this FBI, the MAGA FBI. Something's very wrong.
Okay, and just to add a brief context, Michael Savage, I think, was definitely among the first media figures to endorse Donald Trump when he ran in 2016. He's been billed the godfather of MAGA. So this is a MAGA guy dating back about as far as you could be a MAGA guy.
With what I just heard. I mean, I watched it. I was hoping that they had caught the bastard who shot Charlie. So we saw a video of a person jumping off the roof. It looked very legitimate to me. However, there was no rifle in his hand. Now, the Mauser does not break down very easily, incidentally, for those of you who know weapons. Something's wrong with the whole thing. They're trying to claim he removed the barrel from the Mauser and fit the receiver and stock in his backpack and barrel in his pants leg, all in 2 seconds. It is not easy to remove a Mauser barrel or index it after reinstalling and remain accurate. We are not hearing or seeing reality. And by the way, the photo of the rifle allegedly left in the woods has the barrel installed. So we're supposed to believe a guy is on the run after killing Charlie Kirk, and he pauses in the woods to reinstall a barrel, and then he leaves it for us to find, the FBI to find. I don't believe a word of it. I shouldn't do this. I know I'm putting myself at risk, but I can't take it anymore. I can't take the bullshit from this fucking government. It's lying to us.
It's greatest of all time.
Something's wrong.
Greatest content creator of all time. This guy.
Something's so wrong. It's sickening.
If he were 20 years younger, he'd be like a major star on social media.
Are you stupid? Are you that stupid?
We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Are you that dumb? The man jumps off the roof. There's no rifle there. Oh, it's in his backpack. I just told you, moron, that this rifle doesn't break down that easily. And then it's supposed to be reassembled while he's on the run. Wait, I'll stop now and reassemble it and leave it in the woods in a box wrapped in a towel. He left breadcrumbs. Oh, and the trans stuff on the cartridges. Bullshit. Something is wrong with this whole fucking picture. I am persona non grata in this White House. I will tell you right now. I flew with Donald Trump in Air Force One. I consider him close to me. I have not been able to get near him since this administration took hold. They have thrown me out. They've castigated, thrown me in the desert. They don't want me near them. They don't want real truth tellers near them. Sean Hannity, immediately, that pimp scumbag, goes on the air and repeats the government lie, that lousy son of a bitch. How the fuck does Sean Hannity live with himself? Well, we just
all right.
No, keep it going. Keep it going.
Sean, you know what? Kept animal. You're like a whore. Kept in a brothel. Sean Hannity, you've always been a whore in a brothel. You have hit a new low, Hannity. And
it's so funny how much he hates Sean Hannity.
Somebody killed this young guy, and everyone is asking who done it. And we're supposed to believe they think we're this stupid? So Kash Patel is there, he doesn't say a word, and Donald Trump's in the Yankee Stadium? What the hell is going on here? I'm just an American citizen who's been in the business of observing since I'm 18 years old, and I don't buy one word of this narrative, not one single word. So I'm going to end in a moment.
Round of applause for Michael Savage in the chat. Greatest of all time. Greatest to ever do it.
That is
it's degenerate and sick.
Yeah, we have to clip some of that Hannity bit for the sake
of the game.
Yeah, I mean, as a rule, we don't agree with his politics, but that guy is a master of the craft.
Oh yeah. Greatest content creator of all time. If he were 40 years younger, he'd be a huge star in social media.
He would be. He'd be taking over Turning Points USA right now.
Yeah.
Roger Stone, another one. Patsy, showing the Robinson's mugshot, juxtaposing it with Lee Harvey Oswald's. Now here's one of the weirdest elements. James Lee mentioned this. Patsy's set up in the audience. So this is George Zinn. We'll hear a little more about him. But if you remember, this is the first guy that they grabbed.
We don't know if it's him or not.
Got this guy yelling, "Shoot me." So this is Ryan Matta. The odds are 1 in 2 billion that George Zinn was a witness to the 9/11 attacks, where he described seeing the planes hit the tower. Then he got arrested in 2013 for emailing a bomb threat joke to the Salt Lake City Marathon shortly after the Boston bombing. And he was detained and questioned as a person of interest after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So let's see a little bit of that video.
All you conspiracy theorists out there, I don't want you going crazy, but what are the odds that George Zinn, the patsy that was arrested at the Charlie Kirk assassination, also saw 9/11, he saw the planes fly into the buildings and called that in or reported it, and then he also called in a fake terrorist attack at the Boston Marathon bombing, and just so happened to get arrested at Charlie Kirk's event. So Tess Keyser, she responded to this tweet and she says, Grok, is a guy really involved in all three events like this post claims? And Grok fact checks it and goes, based on a review of multiple sources, George Zinn was a witness to the 9/11 attacks, and he described seeing planes hit the towers. He was also arrested in 2013 for emailing a bomb threat joke to the Salt Lake City Marathon shortly after the Boston bombing. He pled guilty to a terrorism charge and somehow magically only received probation. He was also detained and questioned as a person of interest at the Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th, 2025, but released without charges relating to the shooting. Then Grok went on and made sure that it told you there is no credible evidence that supports claims of his involvement in 9/11's false flag, facilitating Kirk's deaths, or Mossad ties. The main suspect in Kirk's killing is now Tyler Robinson, and he is in custody. So I asked Grok to break this one down for us, and it says so, and it wouldn't give me an answer first. It said it's impossible to calculate. Well, I said use statistical probability and give me a ballpark stat on the probability of him being at all three major events. And it goes through here and it breaks it down. Then we get down here to the very bottom where it combines the probability right here. Combined probability. And it says it is equal to 0.705% or 5 times 10 to the power of 8. That translates to approximately 1 in 2 billion. Does all of that seem normal to you?
Yep. And finally, a lot of people have seen these hand gestures. So this is on the Patriot Voice. Again, most of this is really coming from conservative and right-wing accounts. One of the hallmarks of an inside job or operation is signaling. That comes in different forms. So let's take a look at the video. It's pretty interesting. Some of it, I'll have to read it out, but they show actually what some of these signs mean in this video in military parlance.
Those of us who served in the military are a little bit aware of hand signals being thrown up. And these two men need to really be looked into. With some of the sniper-looking signals, especially coming from the guy in the white and the guy
touching the side of the face in a military context, often by rubbing the cheek, is a hand signal to indicate the presence of a male individual. Other hand-to-face signals include female. Some users suggest touching the chest to indicate female. Well, that's very sexist. Keaton got in a lot of trouble with that with the Epstein drawing the other day. Standardized signals can vary between different military units.
guy in the black.
A single hand held straight out in front of the body with the palm down and moving in a horizontal arc repeatedly means commence firing. When executed rapidly, it means to increase the rate of fire. When executed slowly, it means to decrease the rate of fire. Additional context, target identification, some tactical signals involve pointing at a target. A sniper might point to an area to indicate movement. A left arm crossing the torso is a military hand signal to indicate imminent danger. It is often repeated multiple times to emphasize the seriousness of the threat. The signal is part of a silent communication system used in the field to prevent detection by the enemy. All right, so you get the picture. Nobody's sitting there right behind Charlie Kirk using military hand signals for commence fire for no reason. You don't have a guy whose odds of being at all of these events are 1 in 10 billion distracting the police, as many have interpreted it, while the actual plot is obscured. So far, Robinson is not cooperating. It wouldn't surprise me if that kid gets Jack Rubied. But if you look at all of this, you can't even have a conversation really about what motivated him. I'm not buying it. This looks like classic MK Ultra kind of shit going on, classic intelligence services black op, where they're just covering up what actually happened here. There's just there are too many strange elements here that don't add up, including the fact that he did not have that freaking rifle with him when he left that roof.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a continuation of the segment that we did before, although, before we didn't have as many details in as we do now. But yeah, obviously, I mean, to me, I think, I think a lot of people's hair stood up on the back of their neck when we found out that the first guy who's in there wasn't the guy. Because we were under the impression that he was the guy, not by name, but the image of him out there in the video of, we just showed you a video of him walking away, but then there's also a video of him being cuffed. That the impression that he was the guy was out there for a very long time, for what felt to me like an hour, which is very suspicious. Usually when they have the wrong guy, it's for a few minutes. There's a few posts on social media, then it goes away. But he was considered the prime suspect for long enough for all this shit to come out about him.
Right.
that we
Right.
didn't know. I mean,
Right.
who knew? Who knew? And what Savage says there, I mean, in his own idiosyncratic way, breaks it down very well. Okay, you want to tell me he took the gun apart and stuffed it in his bag or whatever, stuffed it in his clothes, whatever, jumped off the roof. Okay, that's a tad far-fetched. Why would he put it back together for the authorities to
Right.
find?
Right.
Why would you reassemble it for the
Right.
authorities to find?
Right.
If anything, why wouldn't you throw it in a million different pieces, a million different places along wherever you were running to? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Obviously, there's no way to prove, and this is, I caution people against becoming wed to one specific narrative, because all you can really say is that it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense. It just
doesn't. It doesn't.
It doesn't begin to add up. And the fact that they're so eager to create a simple narrative, which every step along the way gets complicated, from the idea that this was leftist ideology run amok. Well, that's complicated by a whole number of things, which we'll get into, probably later in the week. Yeah, no, it's there's a whole lot of mystery.
Yeah, and when you look at all of the strange facts surrounding this, you go back to Butler, and we're going to show this on the other side. Max spoke with Tim Dillon, in which he kind of summed up the thesis of his article and some of his background research. One of the things he says that's interesting is that Butler scared Trump. Now, we did a whole piece about it, speculating that Trump was faking it. But, that fact pattern could also lend itself to the notion that it was a warning from somebody to Trump as well. The fact is, the shooter and the pattern around him, again, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And the fact that the shooter's identity disappeared from view so quickly, I interpreted that famously vengeful Donald Trump did not walk into the White House and immediately have the intelligence services turned upside down to get to the bottom of Butler as he was in on it. Another interpretation is he was scared of the people who did it and didn't want to pursue it, and got the message that he's not to pursue it. We've always assumed it was kind of Miriam's money that keep him quiescent about Israel and maybe working against his own best political interests in that area, and maybe against his own instincts. And that could be part of it, but it might not be all of it, man. Trump's never been one who minds taking your money and then not giving you what you paid for, especially if it's hurting him personally to deliver. The fact that he is this absolutely loyal to Israel, yeah, that could be part of it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch the replay of that, but I believe I speculated that at the time, that another possibility is that this really rattled him. This really scared the hell out of him. And so, there's just, it's one of those things where, as Kurt Metzger says, you probably never know. You'll probably never know. But we will see how this plays out and what more comes to light about this Tyler Robinson character, who is now denying that he did it and not cooperating, which is interesting as well. So we will have to stay tuned on that score.
Well, there's also, I didn't have time because of the interview this afternoon to do a piece I was going to do about the conversation among MAGA influencers about this. This is where you can really see who's bought. You got Benny in the closet. People like that are going to jump up and really work to reinforce the narrative. Oh, this is trans ideology. That's how you know, man. Those are the ones who are completely bought and paid for. The people who are going to just reinforce that narrative that they clearly are very determined to put out there as the only explanation.
Well, yeah, I mean, that to me is the danger of this whole situation, which we'll get to later in the show, for sure. All right, Landrew, thanks for the $100. It's very kind of you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much. Says, thank you, Colonel Aguilar, for voicing the truth about what is happening in Palestine. I do not believe Israel, forever lowercase, will last as a state much longer. Free Palestine. Thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that. very much, my friend. That is very kind of you. Russ is going to get your sound drop ready here.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right. While he does that, Free Shit says, Jesus, that first segment was a lot of work. Thank you, Free Shit. Appreciate that.
I think you once again need to make it clear that people can come into the studio later.
Yeah. Yes. Try and come into the studio later. Keaton, very strong first segment on Thursday, almost as strong as when you did sex jokes in front of terrified women at the workers' strike back meeting. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Did I do that? When did I do that?
Well, you're like taped thing.
Yeah, but there were no sex jokes in my tape thing.
You didn't make any sex jokes there?
No, there were no.
You made. Maybe he means the LaRouche thing.
The LaRouche thing, maybe. Yeah, maybe
there
that was it. Yeah. I think that was the LaRouche thing.
Landrew is dead.
Yeah. What was your abortion joke? What was it? I think I was sitting on stage and they were playing it behind me, and I was like.
Oh, well, my big one was Kamala's fuck, marry, kill joke. That was the big one. That was the one that brought the house down. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Kamala Harris, what was it? How did it go? I forget how it went. She got her career start. She began her political career by dating Willie Brown. Then she married Doug Emhoff and became vice president overseeing a genocide. And so her entire career is one long game of fuck, marry, kill.
Yeah.
That was essentially it. I'm botching the now, but that was essentially
it was pretty funny because like the LaRouche people have them singing like Beethoven's.
They got a symphony in back of me with their violins at rest.
And these are the jokes Keaton is going with.
An orchestra, but yeah. You just hear a flute go when I mentioned the punchline. Yeah. All right, what do we got here? Ex-Barbarian says, man, I live in Florida. Bad voodoo around these parts. Saw a lot of flags at half-mast yesterday and a rare journey outside. People are regarded. So many ignorant Q-tips glued to TV. Thank you, Ex-Barbarian.
Somebody had to say it.
Sparky says, will President Trump win the Nobel Prize in genocide? Good question, Sparky. Anthony Aguilar is doing the Lord's work. So inspiring. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. And for the record, Lieutenant Aguilar did not seem self-deletion inclined. No, look, it takes a lot to speak up in that way, for sure. No question about it. And to keep doing it. Sparky says, so Cash worships Odin, isn't that pagan? I thought Charlie Kirk was a Christian. Yeah, that's what made that so crazy. Like, Charlie Kirk is this devout, famous Christian. What the fuck you talk about Valhalla? Like, it was just so well,
it's the tweet I got it from was right. It's this like white supremacist biker gang thing.
Yeah, they are into the Norse shit, for pretty obvious reasons. Yassine Miller, thanks for the $10 super sticker. Appreciate that very much. Sparky says, ironically, the Crusades weren't just in the Middle East. Knights also went into Northern Europe to convert the followers of Odin to Christianity at sword or lance point.
Is that true?
That's true. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I thought those were internal use to signal other members of Kirk's security team that may well be otherwise. Well, that's the other possibility but it seemed pretty nonchalant for that. I don't know. I mean, there's no way to say for sure, obviously. Okay. Why don't we pause for a quick moment here, because it is Sunday night, and every Monday a new episode of the Grifters Bible shows up on YouTube at the El Shaboom's YouTube channel. So the Grifters Bible is the mind-bending novel by El Shaboom's, and it's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as it combined the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with the state-of-the-art in Michigas to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible, a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. New episode is posted every Monday at youtube.com/@El-Shabooms. That's the channel. So go and type that into your URL, smash the subscribe button, and tune in every Monday for a new episode. Okay. All right. We can move right on along.
All right. Hang on. I was loading in videos.
It's all right. Here, I'll go a little more. Furrow Screen says, I love when you guys go full Jew. What? It takes you 5 minutes to eat a salad? Cancer sucks veto.
Dude, my dinner is still fucking sitting here, man.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. It's a salad. It's not going to get cold, right?
It's a salad. I got some peanut butter over there because I had to just grab shit. There's like a particularly health conscious 5-year-old's dinner.
Yeah. Russ is eating a salad with Hamas. That's right. Long Meadow, love you, fellow humans. Bassem Youssef just released a YouTube video titled My Fellow American Citizens. I recommend watching it for everyone. Please try to get him on your show. It would be great. Yeah, that would love to have.
You know what some of you will be excited about, and this was actually suggested to me by friend of show James Nagy, who used to come on the show every now and then. Old dear friend of mine. Jimmy the Giant from England. It looks like we're going to get him on Jimmy's show either tomorrow or Wednesday. So I know some of you, particularly our UK people, will be fans. So I'm pretty interested to talk to him. It's kind of perfect timing, actually, with the Unite the Kingdom rally this weekend.
Right. Yeah, for sure. All right. We can move right on along, I suppose.
Okay. So kind of the B part of the last segment. There's a lot of talk about a lot of business going on with our friends in Israel around this Charlie Kirk happening. And this particular clip has been making the rounds a lot. This is from Red 5. Charlie Kirk's final questions to Ben Shapiro. Perhaps there was a tug of war for Charlie that we did not know about. I don't know. I thought I'd leave this here for you to sit with it, whatever it means. Now, if you look that up, he's got all of the questions that he asked Ben Shapiro in that interview. We're just going to take a look at one of them, the most relevant, the one where a lot of people looked at Ben Shapiro's facial expression and half jokingly say, this is the moment that Ben Shapiro decided Charlie Kirk had to go.
We've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
Yeah, Ben did not like the sound of that. Didn't like the sound of that. So Benji goes on Newsmax. This is what's so funny to me, because most Jewish Americans are Democrats. And, most of them, statistically, I'm not making this up, most of them are Zionists, different shades of meaning for that, liberal Zionists, far right-wing Zionists, but 80% in the last polling that I saw, they're Zionists. But they're also Democrats, but this is about as right-wing a nation as you could imagine. I mean, it's far right wing, and don't tell me it's Netanyahu. And if you're going to say it's a democracy, then Israel has to own a guy who's been in their politics for over 20 years. It's not an anomaly. It's not like he won a freak election, right? So where does he go to make his case? Where did he go? To the kind of outlets you like, CNN, MSNBC? No, he went right to Newsmax, because that's who he ideologically aligns with. These networks, these figures that you claim to absolutely despise, that's who Netanyahu makes common cause with. Why do you think that is, geniuses? Not that we have a lot of Zionists watching the show. So 0 Hour Briefs posted this. I hadn't seriously considered Israeli involvement in the Charlie Kirk assassination until Netanyahu went on Newsmax to deny it. Why speak to it at all unless you're trying to get ahead of something? His face didn't project confidence. It projected calculation. Yeah, a lot of people feel he looked nervous in this interview. You be the judge.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, and it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing.
I mean, you said it, not us.
It's not only insane. It's
working with DARPA. Are you?
I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying this. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this, but they go. They have no limits. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything and promote all these absurd rumors.
She knows.
And by the way, they're willing to kill us all
the
knows. Time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things. That continued actually up to the Holocaust. The Nazis said the same thing. We're carrying vermin. We're spreading disease. And people believed it. And every time they believed it, this was a prelude to a greater and greater massacre, culminating with the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust. Well, since then, we've learned, when people spread these lies about us, prepare yourself for the assault. And, they're trying to delegitimize the state of Israel. Charlie Kirk said to me that, he wrote me this detailed letter, you have to fight the slander. These untruths, these vilifications have consequences. And he was right. But I'll tell you one thing, we're fighting on the battlefield against the terrorists and winning. And he was fighting on the battlefield of ideas. And I think he was winning. He was going to win. That's why they shot him. I hope they don't silence him. I don't think people will give in to these ridiculous lies.
Okay, so I wanted to play that whole thing because it's really a masterclass in Hasbara, or Israeli propaganda. And it's also, it's tragic that it's going to take some time before these books are written and this analysis becomes mainstream. But Israel is a fascinating sociological study of what happens when you take people who have legitimately been victimized and give them a sense of impunity over a few generations. What comes out the other side? I don't think any group of humans is substantively different from humanity in general. I think we're all made up of the same stuff psychologically. This is really a study in how humans do not do well with lack of accountability. You're talking about people who had a legitimate sense of grievance and victimhood, and having that allowed them basically to creep up and creep up and creep up the line of immorality until you just have a people who have just an absolute sense of their own justification for anything that they do. And immediately they'll always go to anti-Semitism, blood libel, the Holocaust, the Middle Ages. By the way, who sheltered you during the Middle Ages when that was happening in Europe? It was the Ottomans. That was where you had to escape to. This is quite a way to repay them. In terms of the Charlie Kirk part, we have some very good reporting coming out, particularly from Max Blumenthal, that Netanyahu and his cronies were not very happy with Charlie Kirk. And this is another very typical Zionist thing, the way he's trying to obscure that, and the way that the Zionists generally are using right-wing nationalism for their own ends. They have been desperately diverting the energy of MAGA in particular and the right wing in general into their colonial settler project. There's a typical example of it. This is from Al Jazeera. Billboard and mural of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk appear in Israel, and appeared very quickly, as some have pointed out. Now, James Lee clipped this. Max went on with Tim Dillon, and if you haven't read his article, him and Anya wrote an excellent article about this, but he kind of sums up the core points here.
Does the President of the United States fear for his life?
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously he fears for his life. And I was told that he feared for his life before the 2 assassination attempts, one coming within a millimeter of striking his head. I mean, let's not forget about that.
But I mean, just to clarify, he doesn't fear for his life because of Ireland.
I mean, I've been told, yes, that Israel is a major source of concern for Trump. I mean, think about it. What would happen
this
if
is
the
our
president
ally.
just if he suspended arms to if he suspended arms to a country that carries out assassinations all across the globe, that specializes in assassinations, that has an entire wing of its intelligence services that conducts assassinations, including with household goods like pagers, would you not be scared? So yes, Trump is scared. And what I learned from this source, who is a Trump insider, someone who talks to who talks to people in the Oval Office, people close to Trump, is that during one of Netanyahu's many visits to the U.S. this year, some figures in his retinue, Israeli agents, placed electronic devices on emergency response Secret Service vehicles. The Secret Service found them and they reported this to the White House. You know, these would be emergency response vehicles that would respond to an incident potentially involving the president.
Now, we showed a video of John Kiriakou talking about how the Israelis alienate even their allies by doing things like this, that you can't trust having Israelis around. They'll bug everything. In his article, he gets into how Charlie supposedly was offered by the Zionists to give him tremendous funding, obviously in exchange for touting their messaging, which he refused. And there was increasing tension between them. That is the reporting as of now. So this is Alex Jones, who's kind of been on both sides of this. You know, he put out a tweet of Charlie Kirk talking about family values, saying this is the real reason that he was assassinated. But now he's leaning into the suppression of speech angle on this. So let's take a look at that.
The U.S. House.
Oh, whoops. Wrong. Oh, no, that's the one.
Bill punishing politically motivated boycotts of Israel. In a first step towards a federal law punishing criticism of Israel, the House of Representatives on Wednesday passed a massive defense budget that would bar companies engaged in politically motivated boycotts of the country from Pentagon contracts. That bill would effectively ban contractors boycotting Israel from tapping most federal contract dollars, since more than half of the $755 billion the U.S. government spent on contracts last year flowed through the Defense Department. So they just passed a law banning the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement from receiving federal funds because we are, in fact, a satellite of Israel and obviously a puppet state of them. And we'll get back to that on the other side. And we'll talk quite a bit about it, I think, because I think Israel should really be questioning itself and its future existence, honestly. I mean, they are losing support so incredibly rapidly. And I don't think, having half of the American Congress blackmailed for, pedophilia is going to save them. I don't think that's a shield big enough to defend against the assault that they're about to be under. And that's a fair warning to them.
And this time, Alex didn't even burst onto the set to break his flow. Yeah, well, yeah, Israel's behind everything. No, he let him finish, and he tweeted that clip. Interesting development, I must say. So here is Harrison Smith on Liberty Lock Pod, breaking down why Israel might have done this. And again, as we saw in the previous segment, almost all of this is coming from commentators who identify as right-wing or conservative.
Thinking about it from Israel's perspective and going, first of all, without my tweet as context, it kind of doesn't make any sense because Charlie Kirk is the pro-Zionist guy. He is the pro-Israel guy. He holds that banner and he's known as that. So to say Israel is going to kill him, that genuinely doesn't make any sense. But then when you think of it as, what if he was going in that direction? What if they were listening in to him and he was in communications with people saying, hey, I think I'm going to go this direction, and they knew his intentions or saw this pattern? Then suddenly it's like, okay, here's this pro-Zionist guy with this incredibly powerful platform that they built, by the way, that Charlie has thanks to them. So if he's going to take what they gave him and turn it against them, that could literally destroy Israel, because the youth is people they're most concerned about. They're bringing over all these under 30 people to Israel to train. They're very concerned about the youth perception of Israel. Charlie is the dude when it comes to Israel. He is such a powerful component of their apparatus. And so then you think like, all right, we can't let him turn. That's just like totally unacceptable. And if he starts to turn and we take him out then we'll be blamed. So, you take him out before he ever really genuinely turns, and then he's a Zionist martyr, and maybe you blame it on a Palestinian, and then you get more anti-Semitism stuff, and you unify the right, and they stop criticizing your guy, anymore. Man. I don't know, man. So again, Israel was never my top suspect until, I've spent 24 hours thinking about it, and I'm like, it's not unreasonable. It's not even out of the question in terms of would Israel do this. I mean, it's like, guys, I mean, they've done it 14 times since Clinton and I started this conversation. So, it's like, it's in their wheelhouse. And if nothing else, it just shows how much they needed Charlie Kirk, because, man, nobody's going to be defending them anymore. And their reputation is in the toilet, honestly.
Yeah, that is the theory, because Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, did get a lot of Zionist money, a lot of Zionist backing, and they didn't like their puppet starting to assert himself. See, the thing with somebody who's starting that young is you don't know. You don't know. They could evolve. They could change their mind. It's not like when you got a broken down 60-year-old, you buy him, you can be reasonably assured they stay bought. He was a young guy, man. Like, there was still a lot of room for him to change his mind. So just to close it out, Candace Owens tweeted out, all lies will be revealed. And Oren Barsky with the usual Zionist charm, your day will come. Yeah. And Max responded to that, they're not hiding it. Yeah, you're really not helping. You're
apparently they don't read much Shakespeare. They don't know the Lady Duff protest too much. Yeah, you don't want to go out of your way to warn the person. Like, she didn't say anything there. She said all lies will be revealed. Why so defensive, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, what the headline of the Blumenthal piece is that Kirk denied funding from Netanyahu from Israel. And, turning down money like that, the first thing I thought of, it's like, when you're an associate from the mob and they go to give you your stripes to become a made guy, if you tell them no at that point, well, that's not good. Yeah. That's not good. At that point, things become very dangerous, right?
Yes.
When you tell the mob, no, I don't want to join, right? They invite you and you slap their hand. That's a good way to get on their bad side. And so that's what I thought there, because what you're saying is you're saying you don't want to operate within their control at that point. Yes.
The mafia actually, during the initiation ritual that we know a lot about now, because a lot of people have turned state's evidence, who used to be very mysterious. One of the ritual things they say to you is, if you do not want to join this family, say so now, and no one will think the less of you. Yeah, like you're gonna leave that room if you say,
Right.
you know what? I really want to be a dancer. I don't even know what I was thinking with
Right. Yeah.
You're not leaving that room alive. Yeah, man. We know he took a lot of Zionist backing to build Turning Points. For him now to start asking the kinds of questions he was asking, that clip you showed from Patrick Bet Davis, where he was saying it's kind of impossible that they did not give a stand down order because the whole country is full of 19-year-olds carrying assault rifles. There's just no way they could have spent 6 hours inside Israel proper like this unless they wanted that. Saying things like that when you're taking money from that mob and then they want to double down on the money they're giving you and you say no and you're starting to talk things like this. Key bono, who benefits? Who benefits? Who wanted this guy out of the way? And another aspect of this is supposedly, and it looks like this is true, he actually went to the Oval Office and told Trump not to bomb Iran.
Yeah. Yeah. All of it looks very bad. It all looks very bad. And what they are going to try and do to this country based on this assassination is very bad as well.
Yep.
And that is why, my next piece here, it's a brief piece, is urging people not to fall for that and not to play into that. And that's what I got into with Brianna, and I think we had a little bit of a lapse in understanding that lasted a while, and then we came to a mutual understanding of each other's position towards the end of the talk. I don't know if that part will be clipped or if it'll just come out that she owned me or I owned her, depending on who takes it what way. We'll see how they clip that tomorrow. I have no idea what to expect.
I mean, honestly, it was like there was very good chemistry in that interview. That's why it went on so long, because we were all kind of sparking off each other.
Yeah, we were all kind of sparking off each other, exactly. But I do think that no matter what the story, no matter what the truth of this shooting is, I think the aftermath of this is going to be very dark if the people in power have their way. And that is why I urge people to not feed that or play into that. Don't pop off at the mouth. Don't go on TikTok celebrating this. It's not good. It's not good. Nothing good is going to come of any of that. I promise you. And I don't think people should mistake emotional catharsis for any kind of meaningful activism. I think that is playing into the hands of people who are going to try and use this event to usher in a very, very dark day. And I think civil liberties are very much on the line. And so that's what I would have to say to that. But as far as the facts of the matter here, yeah, it looks terrible. It looks terrible. There's really no other way to put it. I mean, obviously, we can't prove anything. I don't think anybody will ever be able to prove anything. But the fact that you have all of this suspicion coming, as you mentioned, almost exclusively, not exclusively, but I would say disproportionately, at least among high-profile figures from the right. Even Tim Dillon
the
was a
libs
Trump
are
guy,
just all about trying to blame it on his Republican family. That's the only thing they're talking about, really.
Right. They're not really talking about this. But I think this is, I think it's very suspicious and very bad. All right. Hillary Hinton says dirtbags below is the first rant of the night, but didn't get read. Oh, hey, Aguilar, I'll be in NYC all day this Friday. We should get a drink. I think Russell's going to be pretty burnt out this Friday, my man.
What's that?
Hillary Hinton. We're doing a lot of shows this week. Okay, so we have on Monday we have Jimmy Dore show. Then I think we're doing Jimmy Dore show on Wednesday. And then I think we're doing a Katie Halper show on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure that that's still a go. So yeah, whole lot of us you'll be seeing this week. El Casador says Russ loves the hummus. Apparently it's age vintage hummus collected from the people fucking that wall. Thank you, El Casador. Appreciate that. Yes, there you go. Like, what's the coffee? That's the monkey shit coffee. Yeah, the monkeys eat the beans.
That's disgusting, man.
Yeah, I forget what they call it. People don't know that. Sean Hannity is a schmendrick pimp swinging it around in the girls' bathroom. That's right. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Cam and G, man, he really does not like Sean Hannity. It's so funny. I can't believe how little is believable. Thank you very much for that. RB Ham says, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, check out my podcast after this show. Nothing adds up, not even the shooting itself. Yeah, that's RB's Beyond the Pale show on right after us, I suppose. Thank you. Vito P says, how about this for my sound drop? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Thanks, Vito. Yes, that's not bad. We could do that for you. I think we can make that happen. Let's see. Louise Brooks says, I've seen several people saying you jumped off the roof with a gun assembled in a towel. I haven't seen a good enough video to tell. It all feels like an op, though. Yeah, it looks pretty terrible. I think it looks pretty terrible.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the crisis actor in the crowd kind of settles it for me.
Yeah, what the fuck is that guy doing there? Like, nobody's disputing that it's that guy, right? Like, nobody's coming out saying, no, it's not that guy.
I haven't heard anyone dispute that.
Yeah, so, yeah. If that's not the guy, it'd be one thing. But if that's the guy, I mean, come on. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, wow. Bloodthirsty Mayonnaise, Ben Shapiro's taking over for Kirk on campus tour. Well, he said he was going to take over the microphone. Yeah. I don't know if he necessarily means that. We're all Zapruders now. Thank you, Automatic Selector. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's see here. Sparky says Reddit's used by intelligence and NGOs involved in regime change to rile up people to overthrow their government. It's also used to manipulate shooters domestically. Well, I mean, these are the kinds of programs, the MK Ultra and stuff, that have been written about quite a bit. Does Mossad use Reddit too? Butler AP CIA photo, crop out the bullet. It's AI. Thank you, Brad Gilbert. Appreciate that. Magnus says, you're doing good work, boys. Cheers. Thank you for that. Sparky says, how will the overthrow of Nepal's government affect Russell's condo in Nepal? Yeah. Thank you, Sparky. Is Nepal on your list? Was it on your list?
In life, but not
on this upcoming trip. Yeah, Russell's going to Asia.
This trip is very ambitious.
Yeah.
I've got it booked so far into Cambodia.
All right. There you go. We are at 3,025 in the YouTube channel. In the year 2525. So we are looking at between YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. What are we at? Almost 5,000. Big crowd in here tonight. Please smash that subscribe button, folks. Smash that like button. Smash that follow button. Appreciate all of you very much. All right, so we will move right on along. Hey, Jake, why don't we hit the scroll now, please? And thank you for that. So, hey, if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more, the best way you can do so is by becoming a member. You can go to dudissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. Either of those three give you the same benefits, starting with, of course, the most relevant for tonight, which is call-in access to our Q&As. So every Sunday night, we have a post-show Q&A over on Rumble, and tonight is Sunday. So if you join now, you will be able to call in tonight for the Q&A, which takes place after the main show. You also get full live stream replays emailed to you the day after they air. So if you miss a show during the day or the Sunday night show, and you don't want to watch it back with the ad interruptions, you get the previous day's show emailed to you in its entirety, ad-free, when you sign up and become a member. You also get bonus live streams like Film Club live streams once a month. You also get one post-game live stream every month. So what you do there is we will do a show that is almost complete for the general public, and then the final couple segments of that show will be done exclusively for members, plus a call-in Q&A. So all that for just $5 a month. You will also get an end credit in our upcoming Uhuru documentary. Everybody who's a member will be put in the end credits of that film. All that for just $5 a month, $50 a year. If you pay for the full year up front on Substack and Locals, that gets you 2 months free. So thank you all very much for your support. You are the backbone of the operation here. All right, let's see here. Sparky says it's a shame because a 31-year-old nowadays like a 17-year-old 50 years ago, in light of Kirk possibly being on the path to redemption by turning against Israel, going to cut him some slack. Stoop Sign says Israel's about to kill both Gretas now. Thank you, Stoop Sign, for that.
Oh, what the hell's going to happen with that, man?
I haven't seen Greta Van Susteren in forever. Yeah, who the hell knows, right? Exactly. That's going on now, too. Sparky, in 1492, the Ottoman Empire sent ships to rescue Jews from the Spanish Inquisition. Contrary to popular belief, Jews and Muslims have not been fighting each other for thousands of years. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's move right on along here. Okay, so beyond the whodunit and the intrigue there, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the assassination of Charlie Kirk in terms of the whole culture war. But I do think that this piece of video is worth showing you. So this is Tyler Robinson's classmate speaking out. This is the kind of shit that happens when you spend way too much time online. So, we have speculated that there's more than meets the eye about the shooting itself. But whether or not that's true, it is certainly true that I believe that whoever is responsible for this, or whoever seeks to capitalize off of the social chaos that is sure to follow from this, clearly are using the internet as the vessel for whatever chaos and strife they are attempting to sow. And so I think this is really worth playing. So let's take a look.
School with this Tyler Robinson kid. I'll show y'all. That's him right there. Tyler Robinson. I'm not trying to clout chase, make this shit about me, but I'm not gonna say I knew this kid really well. I didn't know him very well at all, but I definitely saw him for 3 straight years in high school. And the best way I could describe him is just like a Reddit kid. I don't know, I feel like if you were in high school around that same time, and even probably now, 2018, and then those kinds of kids, but that's exactly what he was. All I'm gonna say is this is the kind of shit that happens when you spend way too much time online, and all of a sudden your beliefs are all the way this way or all the way this way, and you do some dramatic shit to please these people that are not your friends. This internet shit is seriously no joke.
This internet shit is seriously no joke. I think there's a lot of wisdom in what that kid just said. I think especially the part where he said you try and do something to please people who aren't your friends. And this is what we talked to Brianna a lot about. And this was the point that I tried to convey. You have a lot of people who are popping off online about this event. And I think that, the people out there on TikTok and stuff who are posting what I think are, some pretty obscene videos, either mocking the event or celebrating the event. I think they are doing so under the false impression that there is some army of supporters behind them, or that there are some actual peers in the real world who care about them and who have their back when they inevitably suffer the consequences of having posted such things, which, there already is a doxing campaign about people who go out there and, post these sort of celebratory videos or tweets or memes and things like this. And, I think it is important to, in this moment, look at just how I do believe, and Russell, we've talked about this, and Russell has even floated this, that the internet in total is a net negative for society.
Yeah,
And
it is.
I think social media in particular has become this panopticon where people just routinely treat each other with the kind of brutality and the kind of viciousness that they would never treat each other in real life. And I think these social media platforms give the loudest or the biggest platform and the loudest mic to people who have the most time on their hands to devote to building a following and getting on the algorithm and generating the kind of engagement through clickbait and likes and shares and reposts. And you do that with very inflammatory content. I don't think people who spend a lot of time online and on social media could really argue that the incentives are to be the worst version of yourself, right? That people are incentivized to behave badly online, badly towards each other in ways that you would never act towards another person in real life. And I think there are moments when the emotional cesspool of the internet bubbles over into real life. And I think in the case of terminally online people, it can be difficult at times for them to discern this digital reality from the actual real world. And I think that that presents a grave danger. And I think that that is a perfect recipe for the kind of social instability that I do think the oligarchs are trying to sow. I think there are people, and we might get more into this next week. I think people who are, talking very bellicose on the right in the aftermath of this horrible shooting, I think these people wanted this social instability all along. And I think this is now the pretext that they needed in their mind to sort of really plunge this society into a very dark place. And I think there is a major risk of people becoming so hyper online and so isolated in their real lives that their entire life is online, that they can become deluded into thinking that there's an actual movement of comrades online who will have their back in real life when shit gets real. And I think it is very easy when you spend all your time on these social media platforms to mistake the dopamine hits that come from getting likes and shares and 100s and thumbs up and reinforcement on these platforms. I think there is a danger of mistaking that for real world solidarity. And I think that's what this guy is talking about here. I'll play the last few seconds of this once again.
All I'm going to say is this is the kind of shit that happens when you spend way too much time online and all of a sudden your beliefs are all the way this way or all the way this way, and you do some dramatic shit to please these people that are not your friends. This internet shit is seriously no joke.
Yeah, it's seriously no joke. Now, I'm not saying people should not speak their minds. I'm not saying people should cower in fear, but I do think, given the surveillance capabilities of the state, given the ruthlessness of people, not just in power, but who are on the sidelines seeking to, eat the scraps of a broken society. I do think it is wise to be prudent about what you post, not to put certain things out into the world at this moment. I do think key to building these kinds of successful left movements is survival, not martyrdom. It's one of the reasons why we're doing this documentary about the African People's Socialist Party. They keep their head down, nose to the grindstone, and they work and they build coalition with all kinds of people. O'Malley said, key to the success of his Black Power movement, key to the survival of that Black Power movement, where so many other Black Power movements have been crushed, was their solidarity component, right? Their outreach to white allies who really helped them build an infrastructure. You see them popping off about Charlie Kirk. You see them making any videos about Charlie Kirk. You see them putting out inflammatory statements about Charlie Kirk. No, they're not. They're not online telling everybody every single thing that they feel when they feel it. You know what they're doing? They're doing work in the real world, building community organizations in the real world. And you know what? When the government came for them, guess what? They won. They won because they actually built a real network of people who actually lock arms with them. And I mean lock arms, physically lock arms in the street. Not, I have a large following on social media and I know I'm going to get a lot of likes when I post the most inflammatory shit I can think of. Because you know what? At the end of the day, those likes and those dopamine hits don't mean anything. They're not real. They are not real in the way that actual activist movements build real networks. And so I think that is an important lesson to glean from this. Ken Klippenstein tweeted this out. This was someone on MSNBC. I don't know who she is, but I think this is instructive too. And he didn't mean it this way, but I actually think this is worth listening to.
The door opening to somebody who is outspoken, sharing his opinions, having a show, right? Not unlike what we're doing here. Not unlike other people who have shows and speak online. What are those individuals going to do? So they're going to get their assets and they're going to become super hard targets, which means if I want to carry out an attack, I can't get to you. So where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the Charlie Kirks. And that means anybody who's out there who's outspoken. And those soft targets, those are going to be the ones now that I think we're going to see a perpetual increase. Also, this is the first type of target like this. This is the first assassination like this.
Is wrong.
So what is that?
That was the wrong clip. That was the wrong video. Sorry. I thought I had the right one.
I thought it was a little peculiar. I was like,
yeah, no, that was really it's funny because
what's-
that's the right tweet.
Where's the point?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That must have been the wrong video for some reason. But here's what she says. Secret Service agent turned MSNBC analyst Evie Pomporis in Charlie Kirk segments calls for pulling back from social media and not feeling the need to tell everybody what we think. Yeah, I don't think you should muzzle yourself entirely, but I do think that you should think before what you put into the world at this moment for the reasons I mentioned. And I feel a responsibility to say this because we're in this space. We have a live chat going on right now. We have, tens of thousands of chats, per week that go through our live chat, through our comment section. And I described offline to Russell and even on the Brianna show today, a lot of times this podcast space, because of all the shit that goes on in the audience and in the comment section and on the Twitter threads, and we read a lot of it, and I don't respond to most of it because you don't want to feed the trolls. But I've described it as sort of the Roman Colosseum where the gladiators watch the audience eat each other alive. The gladiators watch the audience tear each other to shreds, right? When we come on here, we have we got a beef with the Vanguard. I don't actually hate the Vanguard guys. Like, we don't actually hate them. We're making you have disagreements and you call each other out, and that's part of the game.
I mean, they're
but
okay. To me, they're like characters in a Christopher Guest parody mockumentary about podcasters.
Right. Well, but even I
wouldn't hate that.
No, I'm just using them as an example.
Like, why would you?
But even now, the current thing with
I know that
Taibbi,
they said when we made the joke about like we're gonna fight them in Chicago,
Right.
like they talked about like we were seriously gonna.
Like it's not, or even like I was just using them as an example because our diss track of them was what really kicked the channel off. But like even this current thing, this last week we made a couple videos, calling Taibbi out. It doesn't get that super nasty, like diabolically nasty.
No, I
between the
like
creators.
that, Taibbi.
It gets that way in the audience. It can get that way in the chat where it's very normal online to respond to someone who pisses you off with "fuck you, eat shit, suck my dick, you fat." Like, that is not the way normal people interact with each other. And I think there is great danger in spending so much time doing this instead of just kind of looking around and taking in the world around you, that it becomes habit to treat people that way, and it becomes difficult to keep a perspective about how people live in real life versus how we all live online. And so I thought that kid, whoever he was, said exactly the right thing. That was one of my favorite takes about all this. And that's true whether or not the official story is real or whether it's not real, because either way, you're being manipulated. You're being manipulated and you're walking into a trap that's been set for you on these phones.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that definitely occurred to me because a lot of that was, because Brianna felt, why should we really be tone policing, especially because, and I think you would agree what you're talking about, like the person who goes up there, and I've seen it, but the only reason I've seen it is because the right wing accounts make a point of finding things like that. I've seen people saying, yeah, they shouldn't stop it, blah blah blah. I don't even want to say more being on YouTube, but you get the idea.
Right.
I, unlike both of you, I mean, Brianna's a little bit older than you, but I'm older than both. I don't think either one of you has, I mean, I know you don't remember the pre-internet world in the way that I do. There's no question that it has destroyed people emotionally and psychologically, and I would argue creatively. Like, it's really destroyed their ability to concentrate, to think without distraction, to stare at the wall. I no, man. I mean, this thing is there all the time now. I'll give you an example. I was thinking about this. You want to see what this has done to people, like the progression? So where I grew up in Flushing, it was very like third generation removed from Ellis Island, Italian and Irish people mostly, smattering of Jews, mostly Italians, some Irish. There was Crazy Maria who lived across the hall from me. I won't say the last name in case she's still alive. I don't want to get sued. I doubt she is, but you never know. She lived across the hall from me my whole life until I went away to college. And it was when I still saw her when I would come back from college. She was the crazy woman in the neighborhood. She was the crazy woman who would come banging on your door with a pair of rubber gloves. They're not taking out the garbage. I'm doing something about it. She was that one, right? Every neighborhood in New York had people like that, right? It was part of the local color to have someone like that. She was harmless. She had no political opinions when I was growing up that I was aware of. Around the time I'm a teenager, maybe early 20s, Maria's still living there. My mother was still living there. She starts yelling about the loony left and how the loony left is ruining America. And, I could tell she was being programmed by Fox News. There's the whole cable news movement. This, harmless neighborhood crackpot has all of a sudden been activated and animated with this 24-hour cable news, giving her an outlet for her crazy.
Right.
Now, what's the next level of that? You put that fucking Crazy Maria on social media. Social media is largely driven by Crazy Marias, who, when I was coming up, they didn't have an outlet. That's why they banged on your door. Because they probably wouldn't have banged on your door to tell you about how they're taking out the garbage with the rubber gloves, because they would have put it online, right? Today, they would just put it on X. With the younger generation, when you look at things like collapse in sex, literally collapse in sexual activity, and we were talking about this the other day, the fact that they're not drinking, normally I would applaud that if it's because they were just getting healthier. Yeah, they're just more health conscious. They're doing more meditation. They're doing more yoga. They have healthier psychology. But we know that's not true. It's quite the opposite. They're more depressed. They're more self-deletion inclined. They're more on medication and anti-anxiety. It's because when do you drink in the pre-internet age? Hanging out with your friends. If you wind up becoming a solitary day drinker, it's usually through that route. You didn't start that way. I don't know anyone who starts out drinking Jim Beam by themselves, right? So if you're not socializing with people anymore, well, you're not going to be drinking and you're not going to be fucking. I think of it as a bee colony collapse. And what does it go back to? RFK wants to talk about the vaccines. You know what he can't talk about? Maybe being in front of screens like this is rotting people's minds. You know why he can't talk about that? Because that would require a complete rethinking of the entire economy. You know, it's one thing to take on these pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, they're powerful. Yeah, they have a lot of money, but it's still a drop in the bucket to the overall big picture of the economy. And in the end, he's not going to do that much to them anyway. He's just pushing them a little bit. He's not actually going to do much. When you start talking about, yeah, we have to have, because it's brain damaging kids, we have to have them not use social media until they're 16 or 18. Wow, man. You know how much advertising money you're talking about for these companies if you did that? You know, many trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars they would lose. So he's going to talk about the vaccine. He's not going to say, yeah, I think that maybe 3-year-olds sitting there with an iPad might be fucking them up. But it clearly is, and it is. And again, I don't think this guy did it, but it's kind of beside the point in terms of the observation that this kid made. It's pushing everything into a fake digital panopticon that is destroying normal human connection.
Yes.
And politics, particularly class politics, are dependent on those connections.
Yes. Yes. I think that's right. I think that's right, and I think that is well said. You know, the other point of this too, and this is a difficult point to make in this space, because you talk about, you know, the economy losing trillions of dollars. Well, you know, when I come out here and I advise, this is like, it's not good business for me to come on here through YouTube and through Rumble and through Twitter and tell our audience of 4,000 people right now that none of this is real, right? none of what you're doing right now is real. You're
trying to red pill them.
Right. Like, that's really a stupid thing to do from a business perspective. But you know, I have to say, you know, it is real to an extent. It's real to an extent. I think as a supplement to real world activism and real world connection, it can be fine. It can be fun, but you cannot make this your whole life, because it just gives you a very warped sense of how to treat other people. It gives you a very warped sense about what's important. I heard somebody say, you know, because look, I said in my monologue, which most people liked, and, you know, it didn't please people who wanted it all one way or the other. But I said in my monologue, I condemn this shooting wholeheartedly and unreservedly, without equivocation or without hesitation. And, you know, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I talked about how devastating it is for the family, for the children and stuff like that. And I mean that. And I would never take that back for anybody, no matter what. But you see some comment fly by in the chat. He was a grifter. Grifter? What the fuck you talking about? He's a grifter, so they shot him in the neck. Like that's the kind of language. Like, you're using the word grifter as it applies to this online space to describe the consequence of a guy getting shot in the neck. Like, that is a perfect example of, you're applying online lingo to real life in a way that just does not connect. It suggests there's something fucking fucked up about the way you're processing the world. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, do you see what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, to me, that's like, you see that and you're like, you're using the terminology of one world to describe another.
Well, and this is, you know, at the risk of stepping on what I said on Bree's show, you know, this is my overall theory of the case. You know, I've been reading Peter Turchin's book. I think he's really onto something there. His core theory is, when you get an overproduction of elites, and usually that accompanies popular immiseration, because part of the reason you get an overproduction of the elites is the elites get empowered and they wind up sucking all the wealth up to themselves, and then they reproduce their class in too great a numbers for the roles available to them, and you have dissatisfaction on both ends. You have some of the children of the elites become radicalized, and you have a lot of kindling there to light a fire with the population being eviscerated. I believe that you look at people like Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin. These people are not stupid, man. They know history. They know history. They know what they're doing. They know at moments like this, it usually doesn't end well for people like them. They are leveraging technology that didn't exist in 1789.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you know what? We have a means of controlling and directing the rage of the peasants against each other that has never existed in history before. And if we can keep them fighting each other long enough, we're not going to need them anymore, because we're right on the verge of that automation, AI, robotics revolution. Because what were they always able to leverage against us? Their labor, the peasant rebellions, right? They were always able to use that, the strikes in the 30s, right? If we don't need them anymore, where's their leverage? And if we build our own domestic police force that can put them down with violence under the guise that this is about immigration, keep them busy, tell them we're doing this for them, well, 5 years, 6 years, just keep them yelling at each other, keep them arguing with each other, play up these puerile culture war provocations on both sides. And by the time they realize the trap they've walked into, it's going to be too late. The robots, the AI are going to have taken their jobs, and the ones who remain are not going to be numerous enough to really challenge us. I believe that their plan, their plot, is to replay all of these ages of revolution in a way that comes out in their favor by leveraging the technology that no elite aristocrats have ever had to bring to bear on the problem.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I just want to address this. This is a good point that Jesse makes, and a fair point. Not everyone lives in NYC. Those of us in small towns rely on the internet for difference, and I've seen you, Jesse, defend the internet. Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Just because I call it a net negative to society doesn't mean I think it should be done away with. I mean, I think alcohol is a net negative to society, but I love it. No, but look,
and that has fueled this entire segment.
If you drink socially and responsibly, and you know how to manage it for yourself, it can add a lot of pleasure and fulfillment to your life. I think it can. Same thing is true with the internet and with social media. If you manage it in a healthy way, it can add a lot to your life. But if you're not careful, it can fucking kill you. It can destroy you. And I do think that the internet is destroying the society. I think social media is destroying the society. I really do.
It's like the experiment they did with rats and cocaine. If you put cocaine in the water of rats that are not stressed out, that are contented, that are happy, they won't drink it. They'll actually drink the pure water. But rats that are stressed, they'll keep going to the cocaine water. It's not that, like anything else, television, it can be very educational. I watch a lot of educational programming. This can be the greatest tool for organizing ever created, and in some ways it has been. But it's being manipulated in a way that is unhealthy, and it's being sold to the public in a way that's designed to exacerbate all of the worst tensions and all of the worst tendencies that were already there in our society.
Yes, agreed. Okay. Did you see Z Free Press cover of Aguilar? What the fuck? No, I did not.
Did not.
I'm not sure what you mean. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. PMC said, did Brianna argue that Taibbi being compromised on Gaza similar to what she pointed out regarding his work in the Twitter files? I sympathized more with Matt at that time, but reconsidering now. Well, I brought that up. I went out of my way to bring that up because I knew it would come up in the chat if I didn't. And so, yeah, we talked about that a bit. We talked about that.
We did. We batted that around.
Yeah, we batted that around. So stay tuned. Thanks for that. Thanks for the Sunday stream, guy, says Race Car. Appreciate that, Race Car. Mr. Fancy Pants says DD versus Vanguard Mud Wrestling. Thank you, Mr. Fancy Pants. Appreciate that. So do you think the Cash Jorgen's target audience is all of the crazy Marias of the world?
Absolutely. Well, no, man. I think his target audience are people who have a real naivety about New York, who like to project onto it all of their fears of what that city would be like and all of their hatred of the kinds of people they imagine live there. He's telling a morality story for people in the sticks about people in New York getting theirs. I think that's his core audience, because nobody who lives here would not know that he's lying about most of what he says on that show.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's move right on along. Elon.
Oh, you're putting this right after? No, you got to give me a minute. I'm still loading in the videos.
Oh, you're still loading in? All right, here, I'll do one more then. That's fine with me. All right, folks. So this was quite something. You know, I feel like there's a lot of this kind of talk now going around in the wake of the killing of Charlie Kirk. I think there's people taking stock of the moment we're in and doing some reflection. And this is really quite the astounding piece of video here. Megyn Kelly blames President Obama for today's political climate. We haven't felt like ourselves since Obama. He was such a slick snake. Now, I want to play this, and I want to just put the caveat, because I've talked at length on this show, time after time, episode after episode, about how I do believe that Barack Obama's failure to execute his mandate, which is a charitable way of putting it, because he really intentionally chose not to execute his mandate. But his not executing his mandate, I think, is what paved the way for Donald Trump. I think had Barack Obama prosecuted bankers after the financial crisis instead of ordinary people who lied on their mortgages, I don't think there would have ever been a Donald Trump. So, this is in no way, the point of this segment is not to redeem Obama, but the point of this segment is to see what she says and how it really does validate the point of view that a certain faction of society was just broken by the election of a black president, to put it plainly and simply. Here it is.
We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. You know, he was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like, when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama...
Wait for this.
Reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama.
Oh, wow.
And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now.
Donald Trump was the antidote.
Put my foot in the cracker ass, cracker ass, cracker.
Donald Trump was the antidote to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. quite astounding. Look, I'm going to give it to her, says even Evan DeSimone. We had a black president and it made us all insane is the most cogent that I've ever seen. And I'm genuinely impressed that she just come out and say it. Yeah. I mean, that is essentially what she's saying there. The idea that that was such a turning point for the people she's describing. And, you know, what's interesting about playing this video and reacting the way I am is that, you know, if you were to ask me, you know, to describe the Trump movement, I would have never told you this a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. We all remember on election night in 2016, Van Jones calling this a white lash. And we all remember thinking about what a misread of the situation that was. But here he is.
Lash. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
Okay, so we all, I think, remember him saying that, if you're old enough to have followed politics closely at the time. And I think what has been since revealed, since this term 2 started, is that that is essentially true. It's not entirely true. Like that doesn't characterize the entire MAGA movement. That does not explain entirely the Trump phenomenon. But I think if we're talking about the core of the movement, clearly who has the most influence within the administration now, it is the cohort for whom, yes, this was a white lash. And that's what Megyn Kelly is essentially saying. She's essentially just said it right there. We haven't felt ourselves since Barack Obama became president because he was such a slick snake and he was so divisive. I think he was a terrible president. I think his failures to execute his mandate are responsible for a lot of the problems that the country is working through now in very ugly ways. So I'm not here to defend Barack Obama. But to actually say with a straight face that he was more racially divisive than Donald Trump is just an insane statement. That is an insane statement that could only come from the perspective of a white Karen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like there's only so nice. And I can only be so nice about that. Like that is just an insane comment. And I feel like of all times to let that slip, to say that now in the wake of this tragic shooting where a lot of people, I think, are taking stock of how did this country get so fucked up? Like, how did we get this? How are we in such bad trouble? For your mind to go there at this moment, I think is very revealing of the fact that, yeah, for a lot of people, it was that simple. And there are a lot of other phenomenons that explain the Trump movement and the success of the Trump movement at the margins. I remember talking to my Hillbot friends after the 2016 results came in, and they were talking about how, well, this is mostly driven by culture and resentment. And I tried explaining. I said, well, most of politics is driven by culture and stuff like that. But at the margins in these Rust Belt swing states, it was economic anxiety that put Trump over the top. And I still think that's true as a matter of like electoral calculation. But big picture, when you look at the core of what this movement is, I think it's pretty obvious that this has been a one long meltdown at the election of Barack Obama. I think it just broke a lot of people's brains. And what's kind of interesting is I didn't come to that conclusion really on my own. She helped me out a lot by spelling it out in as many words. I mean, she's saying it. If I'm wrong, if you think I have this wrong, if you think this is a bad take, horrible take, okay, well, tell me, you interpret what she just said in a different way. I would love to hear somebody interpret that in any other way but the way I just did.
Well, okay. I think for people like ourselves and a lot of people in our space, we came at that question so much through the lens of the Bernie Hillary primaries. that we were not very tolerant of even entertaining that, because the people making that argument were the same people that, to our minds, and I still feel rightly, put Donald Trump in office with their obsession with culture to the exclusion of all other things. And without acknowledging that creating those economic conditions is what created those cultural conditions. And you can't address the one without addressing the other. But, and I don't think any reasonable person ever said that that was not a good portion of Trump's base. It was just, you couldn't argue, oh, yeah, no, there was some lost tribe of racists in America. We never had them before.
Right.
And all of a sudden they materialized. All of a sudden Trump created these people. They've always been there. So by itself, it was not an explanation. And I still believe that as well, that doesn't explain it. What you're seeing very much since the election is, as you point out, you want to say it's not most, it's not all. It's the most visible part. And it's definitely the part, as you point out, again, with the most influence within this administration. We got into this a little bit in the Taibbi piece. Why you got a bunch of motherfuckers from South Africa who are part of this PayPal mafia, and you got them at the same time using social media to drive white people crazy with hallucinations about a white genocide in fucking Africa? Of all places. You think that's a coincidence that you got all of these rich billionaire oligarchs from South Africa, and you sitting there in your deindustrialized, formerly prosperous town in the middle of the country are obsessed with fucking South Africa all of a sudden, are
Right.
really emotionally upset about what you're being told. You don't even know what you're being told is going on in South Africa. See a bunch of fat motherfuckers look like they're doing pretty well, get off a plane from South Africa, where supposedly they have it so bad they could only get 40 people on that plane. Let me tell you,
59,
man,
I think, something like that. Yeah.
you drop a plane in Sudan and offer for anyone who wants to get on to who's having a bad
Yeah.
time. They're going to be hanging off the freaking wheels
Yeah.
of the plane when that plane takes off. So why is that? Why is that? Why are you obsessed with that? Because they're manipulating you. Look, there was a moment during the Depression. Roosevelt was an elite, as many people often point out. He was as blue blood gets. His family went back to the Dutch colonists, went back to the original 17th century Dutch colony. The elites realized, probably partly looking at the Russian Revolution, you know what, man? We better check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. We better rein this shit in, or man, these farmers, these Okies going out to California. He talks about it in the Grapes of Wrath, how scared the owner class was about all these armed Okies who knew how to use their rifles showing up in California. They were afraid they were going to turn into Bolsheviks. You had a lot of the elements that went into the Russian Revolution present at that moment. You had a lot of the intellectual class had become communists and communist sympathizers. Most of the arts community had gone over to Marxism, Leninism, variations on that. They were scared, man. They were scared that they were going to be the Romanovs. So they put in place reforms, really starting with Nixon and in earnest with Reagan. In their wisdom, they started to dismantle those limits on their own power and their own wealth that the elites had installed in order to avoid a Russian Revolution. We've talked about this a lot. The collapse of the Soviet Union probably had the effect of really accelerating that. Once there was no longer what they felt a threatening example of another system to compete against, they didn't feel like they had to offer anything to people to keep them supporting this system. The end of history, right? So why do we have to compete with the communists. There are no more communists. I mean, the Chinese have risen now, but at that time they weren't taken seriously as a factor, as an attractive alternative to the United States. All of that created conditions where people are full of anger, hate, confusion. And this is what I say, this is something that the elites and the oligarchs have never had before. They've never had this before. They know that when you make people this desperate, that anger is going to tend to be directed at them. And it didn't start with social media. You go back to the Powell memo, they started way back buying up the media, infiltrating the media, putting intelligence operatives into the media. And if you look at where we are today, they got what they wanted. They created a society where even people who think of themselves on the left, for the most part, have no project and no explanation for the collapse of the middle and working class other than racism. That's all they want you talking about. That's all they want you talking about. And the way they play on the white people, it's the same. It's just the identity politics taken in a direction that's going to appeal to white people. Well, you see, it's because the Mexican took your job. It's because black people are violent, right? These are the things that they're going to feed to them because that's what they like. Being the former rulers, being the former ruling class, and feeling that, well, the current ruling class, let's get real, but talking about people who, for whom the system has not worked, the former working class, formerly prosperous white middle class, downwardly mobile now. That appeal to a lost past glory. Now, you can't pull that particular appeal on non-white people because they don't have it, right? They don't have that memory of how good things were for their parents and for their grandparents. You can't play on that kind of white nationalist feeling. Remember your gloried past. That's not going to work with any other group of people. But that pitch works with a lot of white people. Enough white people that it's created a very dangerous political movement in this country. And if you look at what they did with the Charlie Kirk assassination, I would have gotten into it tonight. We got too busy with our interview this afternoon. Yeah, Stephen Miller, man, going up there talking about they're going to take away your money. They're going to come after these left organizations. This is the purpose of all of this culture war rhetoric. It's to keep you at each other's throats. Barack Obama, yeah, he deserves scorn, but not for the reasons that Megyn Kelly is going to talk about. Barack Obama, the fact that you had so many people who voted for him twice, who voted for Trump, shows you they did not want that. They did not want an America that transcends race or tries to transcend race. Look, I know some people might say, oh, that's bullshit. Those things were getting better. They were getting better. It did feel like we were turning a corner. And I think that's what a lot of Americans voted for when they voted for Obama, including a lot of people who are rabid Trump supporters today.
Yep.
They wanted to live in that better world that you told them this was going to bring them into. Nobody likes to be tense all the time.
Right.
You have to talk people into that. You have to manipulate people into that. People would rather live in peace. They thought Obama was going to be the thing that put that legacy behind. And for Megyn Kelly to say he was always invoking race, Obama tiptoed around that subject as much as he could. We expect him not to talk about it. He's not gonna, when Trayvon Martin gets killed, he's not gonna talk
He's
about
not
it.
going to say anything, right?
He's not gonna, yeah, that's messed up. So anyway,
Yeah, right.
he had to talk about it. But because Obama was selected by Citibank and his cabinet was selected by Citibank, Obama did not do what he was put there to do and what he implicitly promised he was going to do at that historical moment. And it was very easy for the other side to bring up all of these demons in the American soul that the election of Barack Obama was supposed to put to bed. See, they lied to you. See, they betrayed you. See, they stabbed you in the back. And under the surface in the subtext, see, you were right about those people. You were right not to trust them. First in the subtext, and now pretty much in the text.
Of course. Loud and clear. All right. So move right on along here. The soap opera says the entire Kirkosphere has become a flash mob of Karens. Christina Suazzo says, I agree, Russ. I'm 56. Bring back pagers and flip phones. Thank you, Christina.
Right.
Appreciate that. Todd S says, missing the Emmys, where an actress from Hacks just says, fuck ICE and free Palestine in her acceptance speech.
Oh,
Tides
shit.
are turning, I hope. Wow.
The
That's
Emmys are
crazy.
tonight?
Are they tonight? I think they are tonight. Yeah. Thank you, Todd S. Appreciate that. Norm Finkelstein should be at Negan for Halloween. Thank you, Louise De La Cruz. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Richard Lee Pemberton. Thank you for the $50. It's very kind of you, Richard. Appreciate that. So let's have a cowbell for Richard. Have you guys seen Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, a brilliant movie indirectly about the fanaticism of the Crusades? I doubt Cash has seen it. I have never seen The Seventh Seal, actually.
Yeah, of course I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have never
Yes,
seen
I
that
have.
one.
I mean, if you've seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, you've kind of seen The Seventh Seal.
Kind of seen The Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
The idea Charlie was turning on Israel's pure bupkis. He was killed just to have a martyr. Well, maybe. I mean, I don't think, like they said in the piece, I don't think you'd wait until he turned entirely. The fact that you're turning down money is not good in their eyes. Once you take the money, there's no giving it back. Thanks, Sparky. Russ, if you're going to Chiang Mai, Thailand, I'll send you a cool excursion to consider. All right.
I am going there. I'm going to be there
Nice.
for I think 9 days.
Nice. Thanks, Ham Hawk. Remember, Russ, a good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. Well, Z, thank you for that.
Yeah, but he also said best to book in advance during high season.
There you go. Yes. All right, let's move right on along.
Okay. So this is one of the reasons I'm very excited to talk to Jimmy the Giant this week. Kind of perfect timing. Tommy Robinson just organized a big rally yesterday, the Unite the Kingdom rally. Here he is announcing it. Update all the details for tomorrow right here. Bring your smiles, flags, and voice. No masks, open alcohol, or violence. Politicians and legacy media are desperate for us to fail. Give them nothing to try and tarnish us. Looking forward to seeing you all. So he accompanied this with a video. Let's take a look at a little bit of that.
Some of the best free speech fighters in the world are coming to London to talk to you, the British public. The stage is set. It's in our capital, okay? The battleground has been chosen, and it's London. That's the battleground for free speech, okay? And it's where we're going to send a defiant message to the establishment, to the government, to the globalists around the world. We are unifying people against you. Your days are numbered. People are rising. The revolution has started. Be part of it.
All right. So that is good to hear, man. That is good to hear. I am very glad they're going to be standing up for speech, free speech. What better place than in the UK where just last week, I'm sure that's what this rally was about, right? 857 people arrested for holding a sign for an organization whose name we can't say on YouTube. You want to talk about censorship? I want to talk about censorship. We can't even say the name of the organization. They had a blind guy in a wheelchair, man, getting arrested for holding a sign. Wow, I'm so glad that Tommy Robinson has taken up this cause. How about the cause of Richard Medhurst? God, man, he's been arrested and harassed for the crime of committing journalism. Sarah Wilkinson arrested at least twice. I think she might have even been arrested more than that. I'm not sure. Rearrested by British counter-terrorism police. This is under Starmer, right? They hate Starmer. Tommy Robinson hates Starmer. So this is oh no, wait, what is this? What is this? They're waving Israeli flags and chanting. I thought it was about being British. Oh, let's take a look at that. That's so weird. Oh, shove Palestine up your ass. That's so weird. It's so weird because they're doing this in England, and it's supposed to be about England and British pride and free speech. And what about the people they arrested? And what about Meta? So, oh, that's so weird, man. That's so weird. It's almost like they don't actually mean what they're saying, and this is all an intelligence operation to manipulate people into supporting an agenda that they don't necessarily support, not even necessarily aware of, don't even necessarily understand. So here's a little news report about the event.
Tonight, more than 100,000 people joining a far-right protest in the heart of London. Organizers say the demonstrations, dubbed Unite the Kingdom, are calling for freedom of speech and tighter border controls.
They need to stop illegal migration into this country.
But some of the protesters turning violent, clashing with police. Authorities say 25 people were arrested. The rally organized by far-right activist Tommy Robinson.
Look at these crowds, man.
He's been jailed several times, but has powerful backers, including Elon Musk.
What I see happening is a destruction of Britain. Initially a slow erosion, but a rapidly increasing erosion of Britain with massive uncontrolled migration.
Several thousand counter-protesters also turned out. But their numbers just a fraction of the nationalist rally. A reminder of the far right's growing appeal across Europe.
And this.
Okay, well, you know what? These guys really need to stay on message because anyone who knows, anyone who's been to England knows, these guys really don't eat their own food. And it's probably not the best look at a British nationalist rally, to be eating from the Afghani food cart. They do like that takeaway. Lou Calvi, the far-right Christian nationalist buying Afghan rice bowls, one of the predominant refugee nationalities. Strong likelihood this business was set up by a hardworking refugee. Well, they're not known for their sense of irony, are they? So here's Tommy Robinson. What is it that these right-wing guys have about their crowd sizes? Sounds like some worries about adequacy there. The Guardian reported 110,000 at our London rally today, yet literally had their own helicopter showing the millions of patriots. Legacy media proving again they'll just lie to your face for their own agenda. This is why no one trusts them. We are the media now. Indeed, we are definitely the media now, and that's why I took this video that didn't have any sound under it that Robinson included, and I decided to do my job as the media and add my own soundtrack. Now, I cannot believe in that crowd they couldn't get some Wiener Schnitzel, couldn't get any bratwurst. They had to go for the Afghan food. That's hard for me to believe. So Elon weighed in. Is there a South African cuisine? Is there an Afrikaner cuisine
Yeah,
they
I
could
don't
have
know.
served there that Elon could have donated? Just potatoes, maybe. So here's Elon pouring gasoline on an open flame. It's so weird. I can't imagine why a white South African guy would want to inflame a crowd of white nationalists. That's so weird. So weird. It's so against type.
Primarily British heritage, British ancestry. I want Britain to be greater than it ever has been. I want Britain to remain Britain. I think there's something beautiful about being British. And what I see happening is a destruction of Britain. Initially a slow erosion, but a rapidly increasing erosion of Britain with massive uncontrolled migration, a failure by the government to protect innocent people, including children who are getting gang raped. It's unreal. The government has failed in its duty to protect its citizens, which is a fundamental duty of government. This has got to stop. There needs to be massive government reform in Britain. And the people need to be in charge, not some bureaucracy that doesn't care.
Mm. Well, didn't we just get a taste of Elon's idea of government reform? I don't think anybody was very happy about that, right? We were supposed to get what billions and billions of dollars in savings, wound up constantly having to lie on his report, which was going to be very transparent, and then increasingly they started hiding the numbers, started hiding the order codes. It takes a lot of balls just a few months after you spectacularly crashed and burned in your supposed government reform effort to go to another country and start telling them how they need to run their government. But he wasn't done. This was really the main point, I think, of his appearance, and we'll talk a little bit about his intention here. If this is not incitement to violence, I don't know what is.
Going to come to you. You will have violence is going to come to you. You will have no choice. You're in a fundamental situation here where whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Today, Elon, I think the British public are telling the world that they're ready to fight back.
Good. Yes.
Come on, Great Britain.
Chainsaw! Okay, so I want to put this in a context here. All right. Elon almost certainly does not believe that they're going to come and they're going to murder you and you're under violent threat. And he almost certainly knows how inflammatory and potentially dangerous that is, because 99% of people aren't going to commit an act of violence as a result of hearing what this douchebag has to say, but some will, right? What are you telling people? That's as close as you could come to telling people to commit an act of violence as you could get without using those words. You're not going to have a choice. It's going to come for you, right? Creating this existential fear in this large crowd of people. Does he care? No, he doesn't care, because what is the project of Elon? What is the project of Thiel? What is the project of their philosophical overlord and master Curtis Yarvin, whose work they model a lot of their thinking from. They want social collapse so that they can build their neo-feudal, techno-feudal world. They need what remaining institutions are left to collapse. What better way to do that at this heightened moment of emotion, like the moment after 9/11, right? What did they use that for? To push through the Patriot Act. They're not going to let this pass. You got a bunch of angry people who don't understand why they can't afford the lives their parents had and why the lives of their children are not going to be better than their lives, as had been the case for several generations after World War II. They want to direct that anger and that rage at what little institutional check on their power is left. They want society to crumble so that they can rebuild it in their own image. Now, I don't like to get into the psychology of people that I don't know, but I think it's worth dwelling on this aspect of Elon's biography when you look at this guy getting up there and telling a crowd of people that you have to commit violence because they're coming for you.
Like the youngest kid in the grade, I was like almost the smallest kid in the grade. So being small and having violent bullies is a bad situation. You know, it got like a reasonably good size around age 15, and then around age 16 is when they stopped trying to beat me out because it didn't work out well for me. They tried it and I knocked the guy out.
Damn. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with why he would get up in front of a crowd of at least over 100,000 people, according to Tommy Robinson. I don't know, 25 million or whatever, and incite them to violence. But if you want to see how deep Elon's commitment to the ideas that this crowd, many in the crowd claim to want, less immigration, which again, I do believe that the ruling class has used mass immigration to destabilize labor. I do believe that. Like, I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's humanitarian. Don't tell me the same people who are bombing these countries and destabilizing them in the first place care so much about these people that they just want to bring them in as refugees. I believe the motive is that they can't talk about that because that benefits their class. They can't take the blame for why all of these refugees and immigrants are coming in or talk about how people like them take advantage of lax immigration laws. So they have to make it, they want to destroy your culture. Yeah, that's what it is. They're sitting around worried because you guys eat minced meat pies. Too many minced meat pies. We need to bring in more immigrants. And just to show you that he doesn't actually mean any of this about immigration, he's just manipulating people's feelings and desperation. The reason I'm in America, along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong, is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and fuck yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. That's how much Elon gives a shit about immigration and what it's doing to wages or workers. Yeah, Elon loves workers, man. He loves workers. Tesla workers make 30% less than union workers, than UAW workers, but he's famously anti-union. He says unions create lords and peasants. Whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
It's the unions that create lords and peasants. So when a guy like Elon Musk gets up in front of an angry crowd that doesn't understand why their lives are deteriorating and why the places where they live are getting increasingly shitty and why they have less and less services that were once pretty functional, do you think he is getting up there and inflaming that because he wants you to have a better life. Look at the pattern. Look at the pattern. Look at this guy. He's so arrogant that he said the soft part out loud. No, I want immigration that benefits me. For a guy like him, he doesn't really need agricultural workers. He needs H-1B visa holders, right? He needs the more skilled people that there's been a lot of reporting on this. Silicon Valley exploits these people. They pay them less, and they know they're going to live in fear of losing their H-1B visa, so you can abuse them in a way that you would have a hard time abusing an American worker. The fact that he pays the people in his factory much less than union workers get paid. So what do you think his vision of the ideal society would look like? You crumble these institutions and people like Elon build the new world. What do you think that looks like? That looks like a robot with a whip making you pull Elon around in a litter.
Yeah, these people. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just finish up. Okay, so to get into a little bit of the weeds of British politics, I just want to cover this angle on it a little bit. There's Adam Schwartz. Deeply disturbed to see today's Unite the Right march in London with 100,000 plus attendees. This was likely the largest far-right protest in British history and was led by Tommy Robinson. The far right are emboldened, but here's the good news. According to him, this was basically a flex. I think he's being a little too optimistic, but I will admit I'm not an expert in the subtleties of British politics. Today's show of force for Tommy Robinson, a longtime street thug, will exacerbate far-right divisions. Robinson is a rival of Farage, who's disavowed him and refuses to campaign for him or allow him into Reform UK. There are many people in Reform who'd like to embrace Robinson. Reform UK's greatest challenge is not Labour Tories, but to avoid implosion before the next election. Like every far-right party, Reform is ideologically split. Pragmatists who want to appear moderate for electoral reasons versus Puritans who want to be explicitly far-right. Farage and Reform UK's leadership represent the pragmatists, but the membership and junior figures are more Puritan and want to embrace Robinson. Farage is polling well, but has never pulled anything near 100,000 to a rally. Today's march will empower the Puritans versus Farage. Farage's next problem: Musk escalated support for Robinson today by addressing the rally. Musk backed Farage and was going to bankroll Reform until they split over Robinson. Musk continuing support for Robinson, maybe financially, could further empower Reform Puritans versus Farage. Robinson claimed today's objective was to unite the kingdom. That was never the real purpose. This was a show of strength in a far-right turf war. The UK public are rapidly being radicalized, and every far-right figure is fighting to become the leader of the desired revolution. Okay, so obviously he's bringing some bias into it, but that sounds like a reasonable assessment of what that was about, that this was a flex. I think, and again, I'm not an expert in British politics, but yeah, man, I've never seen a right-wing politician in England who was able to muster a crowd like that. And as much as I had fun with that video, yeah, I mean, that looks like over 100,000 people to me, like well over to my eye. So it may have been more people than they were reporting. This guy's optimism that they're gonna collapse under the weight of their own intra-party fighting, I think that's overly optimistic, man. If you could put that many people on the street, you can take over the party and win an election, or you could start your own and win an election.
Yeah, obviously they are a formidable force. Well, because look, I mean, no government anywhere has the answer to anything that is ailing these societies, and that's
Right.
what creates oxygen for this in the first place. You know, it takes a collapse of liberalism to open the door to
Right.
things like this in the first place, to the point where, yeah, I mean, people are just, I think, in a blind rage. I mean, to your point earlier, yeah, you don't see how this leads to the ushering in of just a tech dystopia. You know, you don't
Right.
see that, where you think
Right.
these people are gonna, at the end of the day, make your lives better. I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. But yes, I mean, obviously, I think they are formidable. I mean, look, you have not had, uh, as far as I could tell, anyway. I mean, I'm not an expert in British politics, obviously, but you know, to the extent we've covered it, I think our British correspondents, guests who we've had on the show from time to time, would agree that you really haven't had a government with the full confidence of the people in quite some time in
Yeah.
Britain. I mean, you had
Yeah.
Liz Truss, who was in office for what, a few hours, and then she resigned, right? And then you got Sunak, who no one really liked, and now Starmer, who no one really likes. I mean, it's, you know, it's not a stable situation, so anything can happen. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, when you look at Elon just take advantage of that moment
Yep.
in a way, to, like we said, I mean, it's the theme of the show. You know, people, you know, in power, whether they have political power, or they have the money to influence power, or even the megaphone to influence power, they clearly want this instability to get worse. They clearly want
Yes.
these societies
Yes.
to become
Yes.
more dangerous, and that is why I have been on the beat of saying, you know, don't encourage them. Don't give them what they want. Don't make their job of collapsing the society into civil war easier. You know, that's what I would caution people against. All right. We will go on here. Future intact. Thanks for the $5. When asked about circumcision, Charlie Kirk said he was not a fan. You got to know that caused problems. Thank you. Kenman, that's another divisive issue, circumcision.
Oh, yeah.
Parasocial relationships also part of the internet as well, whether it be to Taylor Swift, Charlie Kirk, and Donald Trump. Uhuru comrades, thank you. Vito, appreciate that. I felt the same way when Charlie Kirk was killed and when Tommy Lee Jones died, keeping the vote. Tommy Lee Jones isn't dead. Tommy Lee Jones he's still alive. I don't know what you're talking
Did
about.
we have to look that up recently for some reason?
Yeah, some reason. He's not even as old as I thought he was. I thought he was like in his 90s. No, I think he's like late 70s. When I was a kid in the late 60s and 70s, this says Sparky, was how we interacted with each other. Of course, we were breathing lead gas fumes all the time and eating lead paint chips off the wall. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. $1 Million Trooper says all things in moderation, especially 3-day benders with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Yeah, exactly. I am but mad northwest when the wind is southerly. I know a hawk from a handsaw. Thank you, Sunrise. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Sparky says it seems the establishment is trying to get Americans to fight each other. Perhaps a race war a la Charles Manson Helter Skelter. Yeah, no, I think that's true. Trump is a culmination of 40 years of the Southern strategy, the Lee Atwaters, Rush Limbaugh's Fox News, Tea Parties, and a black president that made it possible for Trump to be president. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Let's see here. $1 Million Trooper says Megyn Kelly is blaming President Obama to signal to Mossad that she is done, suggesting that Epstein was an Israeli intel asset like she did on the air with Charlie Kirk. Humiliation ritual. My real name, Gorgeous George Galloway, calls them flag shaggers. I like that, flag shaggers. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Professor Brown note, we're ripe for United Colors of Benito ad campaign. Patel, Walsh, Musk, Harp, Milikowski, Yaxley, Lennon, Opus DEI. Intersectional black shirt bros joined in a happy human centipede. Thank you for that. All right. We're going to do a little football ad here while we have you guys. Hey, football fanatics, are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Well, tune into Westwood One for all the gridiron glory you crave. From jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays, don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One. You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on westwood1sports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports. If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One. Okay. We will move right along here. I got one more segment of the night. It is a quick one, and then we will take remaining super chats and Rumble rants. But, you know, there's a lot of talk about violence and people's words, encouraging violent actions. Well, how about this one? Brian Kilmeade endorses euthanizing homeless people, involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them, he says.
Millions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
Yeah, you're not voting for the people you're voting for are too soft. Yeah.
That you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Wow. You know, MSNBC fired Matthew Dowd for saying Charlie Kirk was divisive. You know, he didn't even really smear him or anything like that. He just kind of said that at the wrong moment, and that's it. He was gone. Well, Kilmeade did eventually the next day say he was sorry because these tweets went really, really viral. So he eventually did have to walk this back.
Actually happened when we were together on Wednesday, Lawrence. In the morning, we were discussing the murder of Irina Zaruska in Charlotte, North Carolina, and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalizing or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. Now, during that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections. I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I'm obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as the perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion. Lawrence, back to you.
All right, thanks, Brian. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. I see you tomorrow. Yeah, well done. Well done. Yeah, I'm sorry for suggesting that we just preemptively euthanize homeless people under the assumption that they pose a violent threat. But, you know, that was it. He just had to come out, say he was sorry the next day. No firing, no campaign to cancel Brian Kilmeade at Fox News. And this is, I mean, you talk about an expression of capitalism. You know, this is like a Ye Own Me Park Joe Rogan meme, you know, in action. In America, they just talk about euthanizing the homeless people because really, I mean, how can you be held to account professionally for that remark? Economically, why would you be? The homeless people don't have cable, so they don't watch Fox News, so you're not costing the network any money by suggesting very flippantly and casually, yeah, we can just euthanize homeless people under the suspicion that they might someday do something to somebody. You know, there's no advertising dollars that who care how you treat homeless people, because homeless people are not consumers in the same way that your cushy audience is. So, you know, you really look at how capitalism, I think, just really devalues human life in an example like this, where a guy can just suggest, yeah, you know what, if they won't take the help we give them, they either have to be thrown in jail or killed. And you know, this is something that, you know, I forget where I heard this, some just random X account, I read it, but it really resonated because we've talked about these ICE jails, about how they're full of immigrants now. And then once they empty them out of immigrants, what are they going to do next? And this guy said the next group on the list is going to be the homeless. And I really believe that that's true. I really believe that they're next. And that'll probably take you through the end of Trump's term. First the immigrants, then the homeless. And then if they have their way and Vance takes over, now you have the real Palantir surveillance state. Then they can do whatever they want past that point. But you just see, you know, just as you saw them openly talk about the problem in the streets being violent black men. Now they're just openly talking about jailing homeless people, which means what? Which means what? You go to jail for being poor. You
Right.
know, if you can't any longer afford to put a
You're
roof
a
over your
vagrant.
head, then you're a vagrant. They can jail you. And what's going on in the housing market? Well, you got the Vanguard buying up all these houses. People are having a very difficult time buying houses. Landlords can do whatever they want rent wise to get you out of there. If they feel like they can get more from a foreign renter or a foreign tenant. It's a very, very dystopian dynamic that's being ushered in at 1,000 miles an hour. And here you see there is no civic concern for you if your net worth goes too far in the red. I mean, this is really, I mean, they say we don't have debtors' prisons anymore. Well, I mean, you want to call it debtors' prison, or you want to call it prison for the homeless? That is 6 of one, half dozen of the other, really. Because once you fall too far, you are of no value in a capitalist system. Your life does not mean anything.
Yeah, this is one of the things where studying history can give you a rather dim view of society and humanity, and a realistic fear of what this moment is leading to. Because if you look at the broad arc of human history, this last 100 years is really an aberration. Most of history has been a large population of landless, malnourished people serving the needs of a very thin upper crust. When we talk about philosophy, when we talk about art, when we talk about architecture, we're almost entirely talking about the life of the upper crust of history, right? This was not happening for most people. Something that always struck me growing up in Flushing was, the 60s didn't happen for those people. Like, they went about their lives like always. They weren't hippies. They weren't like that. Didn't for a lot of the working class, like that. It happened around them. It didn't happen to them. That wasn't their actual life. That's most of history. Most of history, what we talk about, the great debates, why you think the average person was having that debate? You think that they were contemplating Thomas Aquinas's thoughts about the kingdom of heaven? When we talk about these things, we're talking about the pursuit of the elite classes. This idea that everyone could be educated and well-fed and prosperous, that came with the Industrial Revolution, and the productivity it created led to a questioning of why some people have this much and most people have so little, and also needing all of those factory workers gave them some leverage in negotiating the price of their labor. That's very unique. You look at this moment, and they're really trying to take a modern world with modern technology, modern communications, modern infrastructure, and turn it back into a feudal society where most people are landless, malnourished peasants servicing an elite. And this is what I mean when I say the peasant mind. And I know a lot of people in left discourse use peasant differently, like in a Maoist context, as a positive thing. But in the West, when we've described peasants, and I know there were peasant uprisings and peasant rebellions, but a lot of the peasants saw their value in being loyal to the Lord. That's more common, actually, than peasant uprisings. They couldn't have gotten away with it for millennia if most people had not gone along with it. most people had chafed against it. It wouldn't have been a workable system for as long as it was. And when you look at the people who were most loyal to the local lord, it tended to be the peasants, because being low status, it breaks you, man. And to seek status, you connect yourself to the values of your culture in almost for a lot of people, they do it in an almost exaggerated way. They become the most religious. They become the most submissive to show, look, I'm a good person. I believe in this. And if the values of the society are rich people are gods, well, people who feel low status are going to go, Elon, he's a genius, right?
Of course.
You feel low. You feel low. If you felt confident, you wouldn't worship this guy who obviously would not care if you and everyone you ever cared about fell off a cliff and died tomorrow. I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't bat an eye. You're going to think this guy addressing this rally is not about his own interests. It's about caring about the people at that rally. That's because you're broken. You feel low. And we're seeing more and more of that now because the middle class is collapsing. You have more and more people who are downwardly mobile, living in that state of insecurity, needing something to latch onto in order to feel some sense of value in themselves.
Yes. I think that's absolutely true. Which is why, just to reintroduce the theme, I think it is important to seek connection and camaraderie and solidarity with people in your class, in your situation, and in real life, as opposed to mouthing off online about Charlie Kirk. Not to shoehorn that into the segment, but that is why I feel as strongly as I do about that right now. All right. Camilo Chavez, they need consumers to reduce costs of production for economies of scale to work. Billionaires won't pay $1 million for an iPhone. Sorry, Russ. All right. Hey,
you're not taking into account where automation is going.
Right.
Think outside the box, man. They can have a techno-feudal society where all that technology is just at their disposal and they don't really need workers, and you're not going to have access to that. They are.
Right. Texas Grown, thanks for the $20. Russ, you live next door to Maria Bartolomeo. I heard Maria crazy in Fox News. I knew it had to be her. Keaton, this is for the haircut, looking sharp. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
She was a character.
Texas Grown says, was watching Nepal civil unrest and suddenly a chubby white woman was there on camera. Victoria freaking Newland. I knew she was living in London. Well, see, she's overthrowing Nepal. Rogue, was she there?
Is this true?
Is that true? I didn't know that. MCFC, thanks for the 1999. If the right did win and lose their soul but gain the world, what will they accomplish? What will they change? Water fountains, healthcare, and universal income, but with low wages. Well, I mean, look, it's a dystopian dynamic. I mean, I think ultimately the victors are going to be very few and the losers are going to be a great many, you know. And I think the road to that is very dangerous. So yeah, no, I mean, there won't be many winners. And to your point, I mean, I don't know what world they want to live in. I mean, they want to live in a world. I mean, that's what feudalism is, where they're just waited on by an immiserated lower class.
Right.
Brad Gilbert, debtors' prisons, what the dickens, history repeats. Yeah, exactly, my friend. All right, what else we got here? EO Shush. Alan Berg was a left-wing version of Charlie Kirk who basically trolled racists who called his radio show and was killed by white supremacists in 1984. China Shill, unite the kingdom, Pa. Imagine being so cucked that you have a king. In 2025, it should be down with the kingdom. Thanks. Soil and Green is people, says Sparky. Appreciate that, Sparky. To me, Keaton is this Kilmeade guy is just a mainstream conservative. That's why I feel about him the way he feels about them. Thank you, Mark Pugliese. Upper crust says Monkey Rotary. There we go with the drool. China Shill says most peasants' revolts were based on the idea that the king himself wasn't evil, but that it was his advisors misleading him. Long live the king, down with the bad government, were the rally cries.
That sounds very familiar to a lot of the Trumpists. Pompeo misled him.
Pompeo. That's right. Eric Suarez says robots will take the good jobs on management. Thank you, Eric Suarez. All right, folks, that is our show. I want to thank Jake in the booth for being here tonight. Appreciate you, Jake. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat over on YouTube and Rumble. We want to thank our guest, Anthony Aguilar, for joining us this evening. We will be going over to Rumble now for the Q&A after a 5-minute intermission. We'll be live on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And then back here Tuesday at 2 p.m. If you want to call in, if you're a patron, call-in lines are open, so please form the queue right now. And then we will be back on Rumble for the Q&A after a 5-minute intermission. If you're sticking around for that, we'll see you in 5 minutes. If not, we'll see you tomorrow on Jimmy Dore Show, and then Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And I believe we're on the Katie Halper Show Tuesday night, so it'll be a doubleheader on Tuesday. Until then, thanks very much for being with us this evening. Appreciate you all. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.